you. Okay, good afternoon, members, and welcome to today's Planning Committee meeting where we're all attending remotely. My name is Jane Angharad-Jones and I am a Committee Services Officer for Conway, and I can confirm I've done a sound check with everyone. In addition to committee members, we also have officers joining us to assist with our discussions, together with public speakers for some of the planning applications being considered, who will be introduced at the appropriate time. For those viewing the live stream recording, committee members are identified with an asterisk next to their name. Can I remind members that the meeting is being recorded and live streamed and will be available for viewing. Should the live stream fail, the meeting will be recorded and available at conclusion of the meeting. Can I also remind you that translation facilities are available and to choose your language of choice. If you wish to speak, please use your raised hand function. You can also use the chat facility, but please note I may not be able to monitor the chat facility during the meeting. All microphones will be muted. If you have indicated your intention to speak, I will invite you to turn your microphone on. If you leave your device for any reason, can you please ensure you are muted and that you turn your video off? I would now like to hand you over to the Head of Law and Governance, Mr. Rhyn ap Gareth.
Diolch yn fawr, Jane. Croeso pawb i'r Pwyllgor Cynllunio. Welcome everyone to the Planning Committee. This is the most difficult part of my year, being in the seat of the chair for one item, and I don't want to be in it as long as I want to be in it as short as possible. So I'll ask for nominations, please, for the chair of the Planning Committee. Councillor Chris.
And can I propose Councillor Alan Hunter for chair of the Planning Committee, please?
Thank you, Councillor Chris. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Nigel? You're on mute.
I'd more than happy to second Councillor Allen, who's done a sterling job on the Planning Committee since he's joined. He's really interested in this committee, and I'm sure he will make an excellent chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Nigel. So I have a nomination and I have a seconder. As protocol dictates, do I have another nomination? I don't have a hand up, so therefore I'll be asking Jane if she could. This is a secret ballot because it's a paid appointment, so we'll be putting a ballot up. So Jane, could you arrange that, please?
Yes, thank you, Rhyn. A poll will appear shortly on your screens, members, so please vote, submit your vote accordingly. Just bear with me. You should all be able to vote now. Please remember to submit your vote. Okay, I think everybody has voted, so if you bear with me, I shall share the results.
Thank you very much, Jane. And as you can see, 100% in favour of Councillor Allen. And therefore, I'd first like to congratulate and welcome Councillor Allen to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Rhyn. Thank you, members, particularly Councillor Chris and Councillor Nigel for proposing and seconding me as chair. And thank you, members, for having faith in me. I've been a member of this committee for 4 years. I've got quite a few large shoes to fill from previous chairs. I'd also like to just take this moment to thank Councillor Trevor for his chairmanship over the last period, and I'll do my best to keep up the good work. So thank you, members. I'd also like to just take this opportunity to welcome our new member, Councillor David Johnson, who's joined the Planning Committee for his first time today. Councillor Johnson will take part in the meeting, but he's not had the training yet, so won't have any voting rights. Welcome, David. Okay, back to the agenda. Item 2 is the appointment of the vice chair. Do we have any nominations for vice chair? Councillor Peter came up first. Councillor Peter, I saw Councillor Chris.
Thank you, Chair, and congratulations. I'm sure you'll enjoy your role. But I'm going to propose Councillor Dave Rees as Vice Chair. I think Dave has developed over his time on Planning Committee and certainly gives a lot of thought to issues before he speaks. So I think it'd be an excellent Vice Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Peter. Councillor Chris?
Yeah, congratulations, Chair. Longa Vachiadai. I would like to second Councillor Dave Rees. So we've got quite a few Davids on the committee now, but it's Dave Rees that's in the hot seat at the moment.
Okay, I can't see any other hands up for any other nominations. Okay, Jane, can you call out the names? This one can be by names.
Okay, thank you.
Say if you're in
members.
favour or against.
Councillor Philip Capper,
Or
Councillor Chris Cater,
4.
Councillor Pauline Heap-Williams,
4.
Councillor Andrew Hinchcliffe,
4.
Councillor Alan Hunter,
4.
Councillor Peter Lewis,
or
Tristan Lewis is not here. It will Councillor Dave Rees,
or
Councillor Austin Roberts. It's not arrived yet. Councillor Nigel Smith,
Obliged.
Councillor Ken Stevens,
4.
and Councillor Trevor Stott. Councillor Trevor Stott, are you there? You're on mute, Councillor Trevor.
sorry about that. Sorry. Yeah, 4. Sorry, Jane.
Okay, super. Thank you very much. That's unanimous.
Thank you, Jane.
Thank you, members.
Welcome to the vice chair seat, Dave. I'm sure we'll have a good year together. We serve as vice and chair of another committee, so look forward to spending this year working with you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Congratulations on your appointment, and I try and support you as 100% throughout the forthcoming year. Thank you. Thank you, members.
Thank you, Dave. Okay, we'll move on to item 3, apologies for absence.
Two apologies, Councillor Susan Lloyd-Williams and Councillor Dave Roberts.
Thank you, Jane. Item 4, declaration of interest, the local code of local government conduct. Are there any declarations of interest? I don't see any hands up. I'm flicking between two screens, bear with me. Nope. Okay, item 5, urgent matters. I'm not aware of any urgent matters. Thank you, Jane. Item 6, the minutes to approve and sign as a correct record the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 14th of April 2021, which are on pages 7 to 19 of your pack. Can I have a proposer for the minutes, please?
Move, Chair.
Thank you. Seconder. Thanks, Nigel. Show of hands. Do it for it, Jane. Yeah.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Thank you, members.
Okay, we move straight on to item 7, which is the deferred applications from the previous committee meeting. And it's code reference 047388. It's a variation of condition number 2 of the planning approval 043785, which is a redevelopment to create up to 54 apartments, commercial A3 floor space and related access and parking to allow for changes to approved plans with the former pavilion, Pier Pavilion, Landudno, Conway LL32LP. We've referenced pages 20 to 126 in your pack. We have public speakers for this application. So I'd now like to introduce the public speakers at this point. Each speaker will have 3 minutes with a 30-second reminder towards the end of their given time frame. The first speaker who will be speaking against the application is Mr. Gregory Jones, QC. Can we bring in Mr. Gregory Jones, please, Jane?
Hello, Mr. Jones, welcome. You're on mute. If you can just unmute yourself and the chairman will guide you through the process.
Okay, Mr. Jones, you have 3 minutes and we will give you that indication when you have 30 seconds left.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and congratulations to you and your Vice Chairman on your appointment. I hope you've been given a copy of my script. We're quite happy for you to see it and all my legal opinions. I start with the question of openness in this long saga. I think there's been at least 3 times when officers' reports have been pulled or not issued. And I understand the council has taken junior counsel's opinion, but will not disclose it. And the applicant has taken an opinion from Mr. Tucker, Queen's Counsel, but only disclosed the conclusion, which didn't make any sense. And you members are entitled to ask, what is there to hide? You're an independent body, you haven't made a decision yet. If there's any doubts about the lawfulness or the approach, you should be told about it now, and so should the public. So our first request is that members should demand, if you haven't seen it, I don't know if you have, but also that any advice be made public. We've laid open all of my opinions, they've all been public. So that is a real problem, and I'll come back to, problems are not going to go away for the council if this is granted. The first point is, it purports to be a minor amendment to a condition, one condition on a consented scheme. It's quite clear that that consented scheme cannot be implemented, first of all. It's also quite clear that what is proposed goes far beyond what is a minor amendment. You'll see, but it's accepted by your officers, there are going to be many other conditions that will need to be varied. It includes significant changes to the consented scheme. We've listed them, I know you've read the papers. But one of them is an entirely different access, new proposals for the partial demolition of a grade 2 star listed building. And your officers are not even clear whether that listed building is the pier, part of the pier as we say, or part of the pavilion. Well, you need to know what building it is first before you can assess it. But remember, grade 2 star listed buildings make up less than 6% of our protected buildings. So this is way beyond a minor change. But in any event, and more importantly, you will note that the original consented scheme was objected to by your Tourism and Leisure Department.
30 seconds left.
They have not changed their position. In terms of noise, I've set out the reasons for refusal, but in terms of noise, and we've just received a very late addendum report, your environmental health officer now says that it can be dealt with by way of a condition according to the British standard. But he doesn't say, and expressly says, he's not saying that they can meet that standard. You should not be asked, it would be unlawful to impose a condition as you're asked to do by your officers.
Thank you,
which
Mr.
cannot be
Jones. That's
met.
your 3 minutes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. I'd like to bring in Mr. Ian Best, who is speaking against the proposal.
Welcome, Mr. Best.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Councillor Allen, you're on mute.
Yes, we can hear you. You have 3 minutes. You'll be advised when there's 30 seconds left. And if you'd like to start your speech now, please.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. This is from the perspective of the hotels along North Parade, immediately opposite and adjacent to the project site. The newly proposed parking entrance to the development tees directly into North Parade, a narrow, busy road that already struggles to fulfil its duties. It's essentially a pinch point. Currently, with parking on both sides of the road, the residual is too narrow to support uninterrupted two-way traffic. Cars either hold back to give way to oncoming traffic from the west end of the road, just as they come off the roundabout, or from the east end, nearer to the Grand Hotel. During busy times, traffic often gets stuck at the midpoint, requiring vehicles to reverse and reposition to make space. This situation is compounded by a pedestrian crossing just after the roundabout, as well as drivers manoeuvring for parking, delivery vehicles making drops, etc. So as you can well imagine, it can be chaotic. During busy times, it is a challenge and a concern shared by the hotels located along this short stretch of road, especially as with general lack of parking in the immediate areas, our guests often seek to double park to drop off bags before relocating to park elsewhere. The proposed cancellation of parking along one side of the road during project construction and the use of this stretch of road to house yet more vehicles plus any larger vehicles will, in my view, cause even greater problems, negatively impacting public pedestrians, our guests, and the operation of our businesses. Besides our hotels, North Parade serves the pier, Happy Valley, and Marine Drive. The narrow corridor does not allow for significant re-engineering to overcome this. With respect to this major concern, we seek detailed information on the proposed construction management plan and, bearing in mind erroneous logistics, visibility of the traffic management plan in order to better appraise the likely impact on our guests. These should be provided and tested before the application is determined, please. The proposed building is much bigger than the building it replaces, and our feeling is that the enormity of the project will, by necessity, overburden the resources in its immediate surroundings. This unduly affects tourism as well as the viability of our businesses, especially during what we hope will be a period of recovery. It is overdevelopment, out of character, and has no place in the established holiday accommodation zone. I understand the restaurant element may not even be delivered.
30 seconds left.
We are left with a residential block, which I find staggering for such an important tourism site in Llandudno. We've previously raised questions about the aforementioned, as well as the general viability of a construction of this magnitude on such a small site, which is constrained on all sides and in continuous use by the tourists we wish to attract and entertain safely. I just wanted to finally mention that we've witnessed firsthand problems with the geotechnical investigations made on site where traffic and pedestrians were disrupted. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Best.
Thanks very much.
Okay, at this point, I'd like to bring in Mr. Alan Waldron, who's the applicant, and will be speaking in favour of the application. We bring in Mr. Waldron, and you two have 3 minutes to speak and will be advised when you come up to 30 seconds left. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, hello,
Yes.
Mr. Waldron, thank you.
Hi. Right. Every time the Pier Pavilion and their solicitor have sent information in, the local authority has sought the response from their barrister. We also have sorted the response from a top lawyer and also a top barrister who both specialise in planning law. Everything is available that they've produced. There's nothing been hidden. All they've done is sent the comments through that they thought were relative to whatever the situation was. So there's nothing being hidden there, and we've taken a lot of legal advice, and not only legal advice, but we've also had top engineers, very professional engineers, designers, all looking at this to make sure we do everything in the proper manner. This current application relating to the pavilion site is for the minor changes to the approved proposals. Right? And what you've got to take into consideration is in the whole of Wales, no sizable building has been built exactly the same as the original planning permission. As soon as the main contractor is appointed, its structural engineers, designers, surveyors refine details of the building, such as insulation, ventilation, bringing the services into the building, acoustics, types of windows and building regulations, and a lot more. Such evolution is inevitable, but of minor planning significance. We had a withdrawal of the landowner agreement. That's why we had to move the car park, right? Sorry, the car park access by 14 metres, but this still adheres to all the highway regulations. We're building on the same footprint, and the building is the same size and appearance. Internally, we have the number of apartments in the approved description of development, and there's only a 4% change in the restaurants due to their back of house and servicing needs. I am not a national house builder. I'm a local developer, and I was proud to be involved with the Deganwy Quay project. The number of jobs we created there and the number of local businesses that we used during construction and when in operation were and still are significant. The pavilion development is no different. This is an investment of over 20 million and will create hundreds of jobs and put millions of pounds through local businesses. Right. I'm very
30
passionate.
seconds left.
I'm very passionate about the construction industry. It creates a lot of jobs with a ripple effect it has on other businesses. Right? It also creates jobs that last for life. And we bring in a lot of young kids to this as well. This is an awful time for people to try and get employment at this moment in time. And through apprenticeships, we can get a lot of the young kids on board with us. With the impact of this pandemic on jobs and
Thank you very
businesses,
much,
there's
Mr.
no better
Waldron.
time to move forward with this
For 3
project.
minutes.
Thanks, Mr. Waldron. Your 3 minutes are up. Okay, thank you to all the speakers. I'd just like to inform members that the council's barrister, Freddie Humphreys, is in attendance for this item and will be available to provide legal advice in respect of this application, together with Jennifer Chambers, our external heritage consultant. I'll hand over to the planning officer at this point, Mr. Dave Watson. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Chairman. I want to bring members' attention to the addendum report. And one item that's not actually on there is that the members, I think, have received a recent letter dated today from Adam Williams, who is the owner of the next door pier. That isn't in the addendum report. That letter contains information, relating to the objections that have been raised by Mr. Williams, which are largely a repeat of the points that have previously been made by Mr. Williams. In the addendum, it refers to the letter from Gately Legal and the additional points that's raised. That includes reference to a further technical note from from Cahill Design Consultants, which they say needs to be fully taken into account. It also says the opinion from Mr. Jones QC is still relevant and the council isn't in a position to lawfully grant the applications. It refers to the GAPS archaeological response and says that it conflicts with the council's heritage consultant, who advises that the significance of the affected wall can only be established after further recording and possibly below ground investigation, and that full investigation must be carried out to comply with the statutory duty attached to listed buildings, and that the significance of the wall must be properly assessed before a decision may lawfully be made. It also says the listed building issue is an important consideration which cannot be dealt with by condition, and the council may not lawfully impose a planning condition reserving for its subsequent approval an element of the development which gives rise to a material consideration relevant to the determination of whether or not permission should be granted. It refers to the construction management plan and says that's a significant material consideration given the context of the site and the lack of parking, and it refers to the council's lease expiring on the Gladys Avenue car park in July 2022, and that the landowners intend to redevelop that car park, resulting in the loss of current car parking spaces. It says there's no secured remedy for the inadequacy in parking and the loss of parking spaces. It refers to the environmental health officer's comments and says that they are inconsistent in respect of potential for light pollution, and the officer comment is based on an unassessed of the existing position, and the current position has not been assessed and no account has been made for the future intentions of the pier and others. The Cahill Design Consultants technical note that says that all the identified issues in the previous technical note remain relevant. It refers to a sound measurements taken by Cahill Design Consultants in May over a 4-day period when the pier was partially open and operating in a low season manner. It says that during their survey, which is at the same location as the applicant's acoustic consultant survey and was also during daytime hours, it says that their survey measured 68 dBA, whereas the applicant's measurement was 63, which therefore results in a 5 dB higher level. And that you say that's significant, and that a 6 dB increase is equivalent to a doubling of sound pressure levels. Overall, they say that in accordance with the agent of change principles, the applicant should have carried out a robust assessment, including requested information from the pier about future operational proposals, such as new rides and attractions on the pier. Without further robust assessment, there's a real risk that the pier and other related tourist activities in Llandudno may be adversely affected, with a negative effect on tourism activities of the town, leading to their decline. It recommends further noise surveys be undertaken during a representative high season periods prior to the application being determined in order to comply with government policy. It says this is not a matter that can be dealt with at this stage by planning conditions, and the principle of whether planning permission can be granted or whether objections can be overcome by planning condition cannot rationally be determined via the evidence and report that's currently available. The senior environmental health officer has responded to those comments and said that in all the years they've been covering the area as an authority, they have received only one noise complaint dating back to 2016 alleging noise nuisance from the pier activities, and they say this is remarkably low considering the area is highly noise sensitive. They go on to say that they would expect through a planning condition that the developer would have to provide evidence of the noise mitigation measures to be applied in order to secure compliance with the applicant's design strategy and the British standard. The Highway Authority has made comments on the point about the potential loss of the Pwyllgor Road car park. And in response to those points, the officers are saying that the potential loss of the car park doesn't have significant highway implications for the development in terms of the loss of parking for construction workers' vehicles. The council is intending to contest the end of the lease on the car park, and the York Road car park will continue to be available. In any event, Highways advises that the demand for off-site parking is likely to be greatest in the first stage of the construction period before the introduction of on-site parking, while both the Pwyllgor Road and the York Road car parks are available. And also the revised construction traffic management plan would include on-site parking for trades vehicles after the first stage of the construction period. In terms of the noise issues, the officers considering the latest report from Cahill Design Consultants, which largely repeats the previous concerns raised by objectors. In light of that and the environmental health officer's response, officers consider that the development does satisfy the agent of change principle and there does not need to be a further assessment of noise impact or light impact as part of the application. Officers consider that there's unlikely to be such noise impact on the occupiers of apartments to significantly affect the future commercial entertainment operation of the pier. And importantly, the Section 73 application does not bring about any changes to the development that would cause significantly different noise and light impacts, subject to the inclusion of noise mitigation measures within the construction of the building. So officers therefore recommend a condition to ensure that the building envelope is constructed to reduce external noise in line with the recommendations of the acoustic design report. Overall, the recommendation is unchanged, minded to grant conditional planning permissions subject to a Section 106 planning obligations and or deed of variation to require contributions towards highway measures and off-site affordable housing. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. I can see a couple of hands up. I'll bring in Paula Jones first, if I may, and then Ken and Nigel. Thank you, Paula.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, congratulations on your appointment.
Thank you.
If I may, can I ask if we can bring in Freddie Humphreys to advise on the disclosure of advice to us before we enter into debate with the members?
Yes, please do. Freddie, if you'd like to come in there.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Apologies, I don't seem to be able to turn on my video, but hopefully you can all hear me.
Yeah, loud and clear.
Oh, there we go. Yes, just to update the councillors, the issue of disclosure of legal advice had been raised previously by objectors on a number of occasions and responded to by council officers. The most recent response was sent by council officers on the 13th of May 2021 and advised that the council would not be disclosing the legal advice that it received and provided its justification for doing so. So that is an issue that the council were previously aware of and have responded to directly to the objectors. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can I bring in Councillor Ken Stevens, please?
Thanks, Chair. Congratulations on your ascension. It was a question really. Dave Watson said there'd only been one noise complaint. Since when was it? I missed that bit.
Mr. Watson?
Yep, sorry. I'm just going to remind myself what it says. It's in the addendum. It says that since they have received, in all the years the officer has been working in the area, it doesn't actually say how long that is, but it says it was a noise complaint dated back to 2016, which was 5 years ago. So I don't know what period of time that covers.
Okay, thank you, David. Thank you.
Councillor Nigel Smith.
Thank you, Chair, and congratulations to yourself and to your Vice Chair, David. I'm sure you will be a great team and lead this planning committee properly and cautiously. Could I ask officers, well, I was going to ask first of all whether we'd sought external legal advice, and clearly we have, because we have a Mr. Humphreys QC. But I'm rather concerned at what I've been hearing about us possibly making an unlawful decision here. And I wonder whether officers are happy with their recommendation as being lawful.
Paula, would you like to come in back on that?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Firstly, I'd like to say that the officers have spent a significant amount of time scrutinising this application, and I don't think that can be underestimated, the amount of time that we've put into this, particularly Mr. Watson. In doing so as well, we've had to have regard to all the objections that have come in. And as we've said previously, we've had a number of objections that come in, particularly council advice. So in doing so, we've had to obtain our own independent legal advice to ensure that we have looked at this application correctly and that we've dealt with it appropriately. And in doing so, we've had a lot of advice from our barristers. So yes, is the answer to your question. We are happy with the recommendation. The report has also been scrutinised by our legal team, so we're more than happy that we've looked at the application appropriately.
Yeah, there's no doubt that you have looked at the application, but you are quite happy that it would be a lawful decision if the committee was to approve this application on your recommendation.
Yes, we wouldn't be bringing it before members if that wasn't the case.
Okay, thank you, Paula. Could I then ask you about the fire services, where they say that they can't comment at the moment because they haven't received the information. Will it come at a later date?
I think probably Dave can come back on that point, but my understanding is a lot of that information will be dealt with through the building regulations process. So they've had all the information that they need to be able to advise us on the planning application, but fundamentally the majority of it is for building regulations to look at, and they will consult with the fire service as part of that process.
They seem to be concerned about access and manoeuvrability on the Happy Valley Road for fire appliances and such. And I think this new proposal will restrict that even further. I'm also concerned about the parking. We do have a parking standard in Wales, a number of parking spaces per unit. And in the report, I believe that this new application falls short of that by a considerable number. Could you comment on that, please, David?
Happily, yeah, thank you. Can I just come back on? Sorry, Chairman. The fire safety point, I think it's also worth pointing out that the application has had additional information submitted showing fire safety or fire exit points which are proposed as part of the scheme. So we do have that information submitted. They are showing that, and it doesn't involve, or it doesn't involve having to achieve access onto the pier land that's outside the site, because there's multiple exit points, and even from that frontage, the people can access around to the side towards the back of the amusement arcade building and leave in that direction. So there's multiple access points which are included in the scheme, but we don't have the fire services comments on that because they've chosen not to comment on it. But the information's there, and we don't have anything to say that it's not going to be acceptable. There's a complication in terms of the ownership and the rights of access to the pier, but that's a sort of complication which is actually addressed within the application submission. Your other point was about parking, and a significant shortfall. I think you said that it is. Well, there is a significant shortfall in the sense that the scheme doesn't include parking provision for the restaurant element, the operational restaurant element. But in other respects, the scheme does provide parking, provides enough parking to meet the council's standard for the residential element. So we're only really talking about the restaurant element. Whilst there is, you might say, a shortfall, there's also in the SPG, the council's SPG, a relaxation that can be applied to restaurants if they are within the established shopping area and they're incidental in terms of their use to the shopping area. And we've taken the view that this scheme does comply with that category, and therefore the relaxation applies. So in that sense, the parking provision is in the main compliant with requirement. There is still a deficit, and there is of only whatever the number of spaces is, I can't remember, but it's that is being catered for in terms of provision for through section 106 towards alternative parking provision. And there's also provision within the application for the loss of parking on the street that would also be catered for in terms of alternative parking provided, or in the alternative a sum to the council so the council can provide the parking itself, and that's been agreed with the highway section.
What about the staff parking, Mr. Watson? Is that included in what you've said? Because I'm really concerned that there's no parking for staff, which we are supposed to be facilitating that, and I'm also concerned about the bin storage. Even our own ERF department has commented that they are unhappy, I believe, with the facilities for waste collection and removal. Can you comment on that, please?
I think it would be useful, if you don't mind, if I can ask Andrew Wilkinson to comment on the parking, because you've obviously heard what I had to say, and I think Andrew would give a slightly different view of it, or give his view on it. On the bin storage side of things, that there isn't, the scheme is satisfactory. It complies with servicing and storage in much the same way as the previous approved scheme did. There's no real change to that. And I think we do have to bear in mind through a lot of the things that you're going to be thinking about, that this is a Section 73 application, and therefore we are comparing, we're looking at the conditions in the main and how they would be changed and how that relates to the scheme. So it's like I say, that so we don't have any concerns about bin storage. The servicing and arrangements for that would be largely as per the scheme that's already been approved. Can I refer you to Andrew, who might want to comment more on the parking?
Yeah, can I bring Andrew Wilkinson in before I bring in Chris and Peter? Those councillors don't mind. It might be worth hearing what he has to say about your comments. Yep, please, Andy.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, the parking provision was something we looked at in detail for this revised application, because there was a change in the number of apartments. So we looked at recalculating what the required parking was, and also the change to the access meant a change in the number of spaces lost on Happy Valley Road. On site, the calculated number of spaces for the residential development was 70, we calculated, and the plans include provision of 75 spaces, of which 12 are not compliant with our parking standards on width grounds, and that was because they're of a standard size, but our parking standards require an extra 300mm width for spaces which are adjacent to walls, to give that little bit of extra space for people coming in and out. So the 75 spaces, of which 12 non-compliant, but actually number of spaces does comply with residential standards. As Mr. Watson stated, the restaurant element, there is a relaxation in LDP2 for a parking requirement if a restaurant element is incidental to a shopping area. And the key there for us in deciding if it's incidental is it going to generate significant additional car journeys relative to the large number of shops and restaurants which are in the immediate vicinity of the development. And our view was that it would not generate significant additional journeys to what's there at the moment, which is why we felt the relaxation applied as given in the SPG. The council is correct about the relaxation does also refer to the requirement to provide staff parking, and that is where the development does not meet the parking standard, which is why we've required a section 106 contribution to improve sort of walking routes from bus stops, from nearest car parks, etc., to the site, recognising again this is close to the town centre and to public transport. So, but the councillor is correct in the deficiency is in regard to the letter of the SPGs in relation to the staff parking element, and that's why we've asked for the 106 contribution.
Sorry, thank you, Andrew.
Sorry, Chris Cater, are you coming back on that, Nigel, or are you?
Later on, if I may, Chair.
Thank you. Can I bring in Councillor Chris Cater and thank him for his patience?
Yeah, thank you very much. And just right at the start, a big thank you to our planning and legal teams who've worked so hard on this. I mean, you know, this is just one of the documents I've had from the objectors to the scheme. So there's a lot of information Well, I was there on the prom in 1994 when the Pier Pavilion was destroyed by fire. Tragic. It left us with a derelict site, which has been there since 1994, a very complex site. And the speaker, Ian Best, is quite right to say that it is a small site, but it's absolutely crucial for the town. So again, I was there when we supported the application for the redevelopment in September 2018. I had big doubts about it, and in fact, I didn't vote for it at that point. But we gave planning permission, and for the apartments, the commercial floor space, the access, and the parking. And my conclusion, reading through everything, is that the overall scale, height, and footprint remains the same, basically. So we've got, all the submission by CADU stating that the alterations to the design won't increase the impact on various settings, including Happy Valley. We've got the Archaeological Planning Service from Gwynedd considering the seawall, of which much has been sent to us by the objectors. But I note that the archaeologists say this structure is simple and of limited value, and they recommend just basic mitigation records only. And the heritage consultant says it's of relatively low value as well. I'd like to thank Paula and Dave for taking us on a site visit there, which we saw the wall, we had a good look at it. Yes, I don't really take a lot of weight from that sea wall. So there are negatives. I think the fact that the Design Commission for Wales still doesn't like the strategic design, the form, the articulation, and so on, is disappointing that we haven't got them on board. Although the iron colonnade columns are incorporated and retained and refurbished, that's a positive. A negative is the cast iron staircase is not incorporated. We have the impact on the west facade of the Grand Hotel, which we were looking at again on our site visit. It's a shame that the usability of some of the rooms at the Grand Hotel on that side will be affected. The report says there's a positive in that the 2020 scheme does have higher quality materials, which are more acceptable, and the style has been improved. And I'm sure more conditions can be put on various aspects of that. Andrew Wilkinson's answered a lot. I was going to ask about the highways. I note again on the site visit, we went to the North Parade Echelon parking area, and that was explained how a few spaces would be contributed from that site. Our barrister has answered my question about whether this is all going to be unlawful, a decision made today. So that's been answered. I mean, we pay legal consultants for their advice, and so I hope we can have confidence with that. Regarding the noise, I don't think we can object to this variation on those grounds, because anyone, the developer and anyone buying any apartments there should be fully aware that a pier in high season will be making a lot of noise. There'll be a lot of public there enjoying themselves. So the only thing that it really leaves me to ask is about the kiosks, because I've been confused all the way through about the fact there are covenants there and they should be demolished, but can they be demolished? Is this deliverable? What about the access that seems to be very important there? So could I ask that question of officers, please?
Can I answer that, please,
Yeah,
Chairman?
if you'd like to come back in, please, Mr. Watson.
I don't really think we're much further on with the kiosks than we were when the committee considered this previously. It's still an issue and disagreement between the applicant and the peer. The peer is adamant that they won't remove the kiosks. The applicant is saying, well, they have a right to gain access to the peer in their benefit in terms of existing covenants. So that's a matter which is a dispute between those two parties. We're not in a position where we can adjudicate or arbitrate or make a decision about whether the kiosks are going to go or not. I think obviously we'd like the kiosks to go, but that isn't something that's within our prerogative. We can't make the applicant require the kiosks to go because they're not under their control. So we have to live with a situation that we just don't know whether the kiosks are going to be removed or not. But we're assessing it on that basis, and we're saying even if that is the outcome and that the kiosks aren't removed, we're saying the scheme is still an acceptable scheme, and it would still provide, in terms of fire safety, it would still have a fire exit points. We're saying the public realm aspect, it would be ideal if the scheme had that access through to the pier, but if it's being blocked, we're still saying the scheme is acceptable without that actual access being formed, and there's nothing we can do about that as far as I can see.
Thank you, Dave. You happy with the reply, Chris?
Yeah, thank you. Might come back in later with your indulgence,
Yeah,
Chair.
no problem. Thank you. I'd like to bring in Councillor Peter Lewis, and again, thank you for your patience.
Well, thank you, Chair. I won't repeat a lot of the points that Councillor Chris made, but one I will make is the fact that I'm sure my fellow members are very grateful for the information that the officers have provided, and also the objectors in terms of so we've had the points of view from both sides to consider. If memory serves me right, this is the only condition left to be approved. And I think in normal circumstances, these conditions would have been sorted out between the applicant and the officers. And I think as members, we're not rerunning the overall planning application. It's literally this condition 2. And having read all the documentation, I have to agree with Councillor Chris and the officers that the overall scale is not significantly changed. And I think in the normal applications, they would be regarded as minor amendments. I think one amendment which although there's an increase in a number of apartments, I think the mix is so much better than previously. Obviously, until occupation, we won't know, but I think that mix could actually have a beneficial effect in terms of parking requirements if the occupation is by the same token as we see in other apartment blocks in coastal areas. So that I think possibly it's going to appeal to retirees more than perhaps young families. So I think that's an important improvement. So I have to say, having read all this considerable amount of time, over a considerable amount of time, I'm inclined, unless I hear anything contrary, to go with the officer's recommendation, Chair.
Can I ask if that's a proposal, Councillor Peter?
I'll hold my fire, but I'm happy to, if you want to.
Oh, you've gone on to mute. Yeah, you're back on.
Yeah, I'll come back to you on that when you've listened to the other speakers.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Peter. Councillor Pauline Heath-Williams.
Thank you, Chair, and congratulations on your appointments.
Thank you.
And congratulations to Councillor Dave as well. Most of my questions have been asked, actually, but there is a couple of things I did want to know. You know, they're saying there's affordable housing with this scheme. How affordable will the houses be? I'm just wondering. I know the application's been passed. I didn't vote for it at that time. But I'm just wondering if there are one-bedroomed apartments, would they be affordable to starter people? Or as Councillor Peter said before, more retirements? It's just a question, really. I don't know if anybody would know that answer.
Can I bring in Mr. Watson?
Yeah, thank you. None of the units, none of the apartments are affordable housing. So they're not, they're market housing. They're not going to be affordable to local people.
Okay.
In that definition, which is actually quite a, it's a threshold which is based upon, the income of local people, if that makes sense, at a sort of low, a median level. But in fairness to the scheme, that is on the basis that the original scheme was deemed to be unviable for affordable housing, and it went through the assessment process at that time. Exceptional costs associated with the development of the site, which meant the scheme was unviable to provide affordable housing, and so it wasn't required to provide any at that time. The current scheme, it has been reassessed in the sense that we've applied the affordable housing requirement to the 4 additional units, because the number of units has gone up from 50, is going up from 50 to 54. So we've applied the affordable housing requirement to those 4 additional units, and the applicant has agreed to enter into a Section 106 obligation. I think the amount is £70,000 towards affordable housing provision in lieu of the requirement in relation to those 4 units.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. I don't have any more questions at the moment because most of my questions have been answered before I asked my questions. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Councillor Pauline. Councillor Nigel Smith.
Thank you, Chair. Another question really for Andrew Wilkinson on the parking. We seems to be putting a lot of weight on the £20,000 payment for off-street or on-street parking or off-site parking, and part of that is the use of 2 car parks. I'm sure that Mr. Wilkinson is fully aware that one of those car parks will not be available after next year, and I just wonder what his thoughts are on that.
Is Andrew here to come back in?
Yes, thanks, Chair. The mitigation for lack of staff parking, say, is a Section 106 contribution, and so walking routes to car parks are part of that, but also walking routes to public transport. What we've also said regarding Malguin Road car park is, yes, we have received a notice to end our lease, but there are legal options for us to contest that. And our view is that Malguin Road car park is an asset to the town, is still required for parking, and we will be taking the advice on the legal options available to maintain it as a car park. So that is not a firm decision yet that car park won't be available from next year.
But more than likely. Apart from our legal challenge, of course. You mentioned then the staff parking, and but there still is no provision for staff parking, is there, Andrew?
That's correct. That's the parking deficiency. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Could I ask officers about the sound? Now, our highly qualified, worked in the area environmental health officer who knows every street in Llandudno says that there was only 1 complaint regarding noise from the pier. Would we happen to know where that complaint come from?
Would you like to come back in, Mr. Watson? I think we did have an answer to that earlier, or was that just on the amount?
I don't have an answer to. I think your question was, where did the complaint come from? I don't know the answer, I'm afraid. I think the point that the environmental health officer was trying to make was that there's only been one complaint in all that period of time.
I was wondering whether it was from the Grand Hotel, because the Grand Hotel site is on an open part of the pier with very few, if any, units or noise facilitating facilities on it. Whereas the applicant site is broadsided for the whole length of it by units and arcades, which will deliver a considerable amount of noise. And as we've already heard, that the sound and noise assessment was done during the COVID lockdown. That is of a real concern. And I think Councillor Cater was a little bit misleading when he said that purchasers of the units would know that a pier would produce a certain amount of noise. Because I feel as a licensing and enforcement department, if there is a noise issue going forward, we would have to bring enforcement against the pier. I presume that is correct, David?
Come back in and answer that one, please, David.
I think, you know, I don't really, the Councillor Nigel Smith was referring to proximity of the site to sort of noise generating elements of the pier. And I don't quite agree with his stance really, because the Grand Hotel, as I see it, is actually immediately adjoining the long stretch of the pier that goes out to sea, which is the area that has rides on it, or that sort of activity on it, which might cause someone to be screaming or shouting or whatever, enjoying themselves. So whereas the application site is actually, it's then protected or separated from that by the Grand Hotel, so it's further away from that, and it's next to a narrow, it's fronting onto a relatively narrow strip of pier, which has got kiosks on it, which are relatively low noise generating kiosks, and the applicant has said that they will put a 20-metre high big wheel in that area in July of this year. We don't know whether the applicant's going to do that or not. They might do it, they might not do it, but it's not an area of the pier which really caters for it's got kiosks on it at the moment that aren't particularly noise generating. We can't really control what the pier owner does in terms of where he sites things and whether that's a feasible idea on their part. I wouldn't like to comment on really. The site is also near to the amusement arcade building, which is a building which has doors that open obviously towards the pier, so they're not opening away. They're not opening towards the sea rather than towards the site itself. So I don't quite agree with the suggestion that the site is in a more noise sensitive place than the Grand Hotel is. I think you also asked, you then went on to ask the question whether or not as an authority we'd have to take enforcement action, licensing or whatever it might be in relation to noise complaints. I think it will very much depend on what those noise complaints are at the time, and whether it's something which we can't really make a future assessment now about a future noise complaint because we don't know what it will be. But I suppose if your point is we'll have to take account of any complaints, well, we definitely will have to, and we will have a duty to do that to protect the residents from unwarranted noise, so that we will have to use our functions, our powers in a normal way if that happens. But I think we're taking the stance that we're not anticipating that happening, and there's nothing to suggest that will happen, and that the scheme itself will be built. It's designed to be built with noise insulation through the walls, through the horizontal divisions, and with the glazing, which would give, effectively whatever amount of noise insulation is needed or wanted. The development could be designed to accommodate that. So then we're left with the issues to do with things like windows being open if people choose not to use the ventilation system on a hot day, and noise ingress in those scenarios, and the noise that would go to the balconies, which are obviously an open area. But even in relation to those things, the site itself is separate. It fronts immediately onto this narrow section of the pier, but it's also that the apartments are elevated. I think it says in the report they're 10 meters higher than the lowest apartments are 10 meters higher, and obviously face outwards to the sea, and they have balconies in front of them, which would give a degree of separation protection as well. So we think the occupiers of those units will obviously hear the pier activities, but we're not anticipating that the level of noise would be of such a high amount to then follow on with complaints and the need for enforcement action.
The problem is, Mr. is that the noise was measured in a quiet time, and I think that the neighbouring business, the pier, are really concerned of the impact that they will have going forward when proper readings are taken, that they will find out that the Carl Hill report is flawed. And surely we have to take that into consideration, that it was taken at the wrong time of the year during a lockdown in the middle of a pandemic when people couldn't travel. And that has to have some bearing on it. Surely, I would have thought, but maybe I'm wrong. But there we go.
Can I respond to that?
Yes,
I don't
please,
want to.
Please do. Yeah.
I think this is beyond. I don't think anyone can doubt that the applicant's noise measurements were carried out at a time when the pier was in a relatively quiet time before Easter. I think it was 2 weeks before Easter. But I think what the applicant is saying is that even if there is a tenfold increase of activity on the pier, that the noise mitigation that will be built into the scheme would cater for that, and that would be equivalent to a 10 dB increase in noise sound level, whatever the description is. That equates to a tenfold increase in activity. The applicant is saying that even with that, the scheme will have sufficient noise insulation to provide and protect the residents, you might say. So it's beyond doubt really that the survey that was done by the applicant was at a quiet time of year, but it did provide, you might say, a baseline measure for a quiet time. It gives us something to work on. Then the applicant's own additional information that's come in recently, they've carried out their own survey in May, so that's after Easter. Again, they're saying low season. I'm sure they're probably right. And theirs shows a 5 dB amount higher than what the applicant showed. So, but both of those figures are less than what the design of the scheme would be able to cater for in terms of providing noise insulation.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave, and thanks, Nigel, for your questions, and Dave for your replies. Councillor Chris Cater.
Thank you, Chair. Well, we're not going to get a swimming pool and conference centre here again, unfortunately. We can't rule out any residential because of the noise from tourists down on the pier. Really, I'm sure modern technology can insulate the apartments sufficiently so that they can be lived in happily. But that wasn't where I was going to come in. I went through all my notes and I noticed I'd forgotten to ask Mr. Watson about the roof penetrations, because we discussed this at the site visit and I can't quite remember what the conclusion was, whether there was going to be any significant change on the roof of the building.
Thank you, Councillor. I think if members are happy, I'd like to actually bring in Jennifer, because I think it'd be useful to get Jennifer's comments on not on the whole scheme, but in relation to this part. And I think it's something which Jennifer has looked at in some detail, really, and has come to the view that the scheme is acceptable on balance in terms of the amended design of the roof and materials. So if that, I think that will answer your question, if that's possible.
Yes, please.
Yes, so I was out when we were asked to look at the scheme on the basis of it being a minor amendment. We flagged up various things that were changes, and there are a few things that we felt that did have some sort of adverse impact, and the roofscape was one of them. There were probably two or three major things: the ground floor and the roofscape. So we thought about the views looking down from above and the impacts there, and we actually asked the architect to address those, which they did. So it's a much more simplified design in terms of the different colours and textures and materials that would actually make it very visually intrusive looking down, but also things like balustrades and so on. So and the profile of the of the eaves as well was much simplified from the initial revised scheme. So now we are happy that I think that scheme is probably better, that has less impact than the originally approved scheme. So those matters are very much dealt with.
Thanks, Jennifer. Okay, I can see Councillor Peter Lewis's hand.
Well, thank you, Chair. And I'm going to actually move the officer's recommendation. I think obviously there's been discussion on noise, but many of us will have been to the prom on Llandudno when Mother Nature has generated far more noise than perhaps is going to be generated by activities on the pier itself. So I'd just like to thank officers again for the work they've done and the detail that they've provided. I think if we, members have read through all those particular points, I think the reason there haven't been any more questions is a reflection on the depth of the report. So I'm going to propose we go with the officer's recommendation, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Peter. Councillor Nigel Smith and then Councillor Andrew.
Thank you, Chair. My final comment, I promise. So I was just wondering now, because clearly to me it seems between the applicant who wants to get the planning application through for his site, which will make it far more valuable, and then you've got the business operator next door who's really concerned about the impact on his business, concerning about the noise, which may, it may curtail some of his operations there, and I totally get that. But Councillor Peter Lewis said these usually are determined between the officers and the applicant, and I just wonder whether that is normally correct. And if it's coming to the planning committee, I'm really concerned about the good name of the council, and I don't want to see any trouble here. But I feel we've got two QCs looking at this, so it's not a straight cut thing. And if I have a question, so if it's normally dealt with by the officers and we're looking at it, then if we don't determine this today, what would happen? So I think that's my question. If we don't determine this proposal today, what would happen?
Paula, can you answer that question? I'll bring you in on that.
If you don't determine the application today, the applicant could lodge a non-determination appeal, and in doing so they could lodge that and also submit an award of costs for the council acting unreasonable in not making that decision. Obviously there'd be another amount of time for us to make a further decision, but I think really members have had enough information in front of you. I think you really should be able to make a decision.
I think you're quite right. We've had loads of information in front of us. The problem is, I'm not convinced, Paula, and I'm just really concerned. But it's on your shoulders. You've recommended this, and you'll be carrying the.
But it's also open to the members as well to sort of assess that information and form a balanced view themselves. So I'll leave you to make your mind up.
If I can come in there, I think Councillor Nigel's been on the committee long enough to know that if there's been a proposal, if we get a seconder, then we vote on the application, how it moves forward or any complications going forward. will have to be dealt with, but that's why we're here as a committee, to make these decisions on officers' recommendations. We don't always have to go with them, but we do have a proposal. I'll bring in Councillor Andrew Hinchcliffe.
Thank you, Chair. I've cancelled my stereo because my broadband isn't very good. We're never going to get an ice cream cake of wrought iron again. We're never going to have a large public space that we've already got at least one large public space, which we subsidise for its continuation. The only way you can make this work is to have flats on top of a small entertaining space, which is what has been designed. And I wish to second Councillor Peter Lewis. I think this is a good solution. And once it's built, we'll be very pleased it's built instead of 21 years of a wrecked site. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Andrew. Okay, I can't see any other hands up. Well, members, we have a proposal from Councillor Peter Lewis that we accept the officer's recommendation, which has been seconded by Councillor Andrew Hinchcliffe. So we will take it to the vote. I can't see any other hands. Nope. Jane, can you read out the names?
Yes, I will do. Lisa, do you want to come in first?
Yes, please.
Sorry, Lisa, can see your hand.
It's okay, sorry. Yeah, it was just wanted to advise if any members have arrived late during the application and you've missed the presentation, the initial presentation from the speakers or any part of the information, we would advise you not to take part in the vote. We think it would be prudent for any members that weren't there to consider all the information to refrain from voting. I know there are a couple of members, I think, that may have arrived, yeah, a little late today. So, yeah, I just wanted to make that clear. Thank you.
Okay, I know Councillor Peter and Councillor Andrew were both here at the start of the meeting, so we're okay with the proposal and the seconding of the proposal.
Yes, Chair.
I came in partway through, Chair. Councillor Lloyd.
Chair, me as well. Councillor Tristan, so I won't be voting either.
Thank you for that. And thanks for the advice.
And me as well, Alan, Councillor Austin.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your sound advice there, Lisa. Okay, Jane, we can
take
to the
thank
vote.
you very much. If you could indicate if you're for, against or abstaining, please. Councillor Philip Capper.
For.
Councillor Chris Cater.
For.
Councillor Pauline Heap-Williams.
Abstain.
Councillor Andrew Hinchcliffe.
For.
Councillor Alan Hunter.
Abstain.
Councillor Peter Lewis.
For.
Councillor Tristan Lewis, you're not voting on this occasion, are you? And the same with Councillor Yvonne Lloyd. Councillor Dave Rees.
For.
Councillor Austin Roberts, you're not voting either because you arrived late. So Councillor Nigel Smith.
Matal.
Councillor Ken Stevens.
For.
And Councillor Trevor Stott. Councillor Trevor.
Sorry, I have to unmute. Abstain, Jane.
Okay, thank you, members. If you just bear with me. That's 6 in favour and 4 abstentions. So the application is approved. Councillor Allen.
Thank you. Thank you, Jane. Thank you, members. It was an interesting debate. Okay, the next item on the agenda, again, refers to the Pier Pavilion, which is listing 47389, variation of condition number 2 listed building consent of 43784, redevelopment to create 54 apartments, commercial A3 floor space, related access and parking, listed buildings consent to allow for amendments to approve the plans. So this is for the listed building consent. We have the names of the 3 speakers down again. So I'm just seeing if Mr. Gregory Jones, QC, is still in the meeting and would like to speak. Yes, Mr. Jones?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Well, on the second application, given the view that you've taken, there's very little I can say other than I'm afraid you have made a legally erroneous decision, and you do have the power to correct it now before the decision is issued on the planning permission, which also issues on the listed building consent. In respect to the listed building consent, you have not, and it never has been, contrary to what the applicant said, their legal advice has never been fully disclosed, neither has the council's. You've had no reason given as to why officers have not made your legal advice available, both on the planning application and the listed building. And I listened very carefully to what the barrister, Mr. Humphreys, said. In terms of the listed building application, it is a very rare listed building. The approach, as we've set out in heritage reports, show that it wasn't properly considered. It formed no part of the original application, listed building application. So to treat it again as an amendment to a condition when it formed no part of the planning application, and that was asserted by the applicant at various stages in this process, is plainly unlawful. And I can't for the reason understand why your officers are not making available any opinion that says that it is. So members, you take the decision, and your chairman has advised you correctly, and the responsibility is on you, not officers. And you, in my respectful submission, have made an unlawful decision just now. You've misunderstood complaints about noise and lack of complaints. Well, there won't be, because you haven't been introducing retirees paying $500,000 to $1 million for flats. Are they going to want to have their windows closed? No. Are they going to be unhappy? Yes. And in the same thing on the listed building issue and other issues, you can't rely on officers saying, we hope we'll contest the loss of the car park. You're granting planning permission, listed building consent now. And therefore, hopes and aspirations about how things may or may not work out is a completely improper way to approach it.
30
both in
seconds
terms
left.
of listed building and planning. We've said it all out. I don't need to say anything more, but please, please read it. Can I suggest, with the benefit of actually seeing what the actual advice is that your officers have been given, which is secret to them and possibly to you, and not made available to the residents and citizens of the town. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Mr. Ian Best, would you like to come back in on this application? You have 3 minutes and you'll be advised when there's 30 seconds left. Thanks, Mr. Best.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm changing my tack slightly, having listened to meetings so far. You know, one of the disappointments I wanted to cite was lack of response to previous submissions. So I'm referring back to comments that we made, and I know neighbouring hotels made, almost a year ago. So the middle of July. And one of the things I personally went through was a serious attempt to understand the magnitude of the new build compared to the original pier pavilion. There's plenty of good historic drawings for the pier pavilion, so we were able to model the pier pavilion to good approximation and compare that with the new design, because 47389 brought out enough information to give us that dimensional expediency. And what's hugely disappointing, and in the last discussion in the last hour, on no less than 2 occasions, it's been mentioned that the new building will occupy the same footprint and is of the same height. And it's simply not the case. Volumetrically, the new build is perhaps twice as big. And I think, it needs to be understood this isn't an objection to restoring the site and improving the site. And it's not necessarily even an objection to some of the use of the building. It's more an objection to the enormity of the building. And, you know, I did ask whether we could be displaying drawings or images or sharing desktops in this meeting, and I was told not. I don't know whether it's possible to see this, but this was what was submitted previously. And we were able to show that, you know, the new build, this is superimposed on top of the old pavilion, is significantly bigger. And it was really an attempt, I don't know whether it can be seen, but, you know, here's the grand and here's the old pavilion. It was really an attempt just to get everyone to concentrate on the design that we're looking at, and perhaps to exercise caution and moderation. And it is not just for the ongoing viability of businesses around the building once it's built. It's also surviving the time that the building will take to build. You know, I think myself and our neighbours are seriously concerned about survivability. And we also believe that a smaller
30
building—
seconds left.
Yeah, thank you. We also believe that a smaller building could conceivably meet the economic challenges that face a developer. But there's been no opportunity to engage, and there still seems to be a massive misunderstanding about just how big this building is. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Allen, you're on mute.
Thanks, Jane. Mr. Alan Waldron, the applicant, would you like to come in and speak on this application? Are you there, Mr. Waldron? Yeah, you're still in the meeting.
Can you unmute, Mr. Waldron? Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, Mr. Waldron, as usual, you have 3 minutes and you'll be advised when there's 30 seconds left.
Okay. Well, as I said previously, if there's anything that we need to do with it through the legal process, we make sure we have the top teams around us, and that's what we've done. So with regarding any permissions or anything like that, we've always gone through that. And it's the same with any designs. We're using very, very professional people to make sure we do everything in the proper way. You know, we've got top engineers, we've got top consultants, top designers, and we make sure we've done everything in a proper manner. And along with that, we work with the local authority. We do work with Dave and Watson, and we do work with Paula Jones. We have to. We can't just bulldoze our way through this. So we've had to deal with everything in the proper manner, which we've done. And I can't really say any more than that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Waldron. Okay, members, you've heard from the 3 speakers. Again, I'd like to remind members that our Council's Barrister Freddie Humphreys is in attendance for this item and will be available to provide legal advice in respect of this application, together with Jennifer Chambers, the external heritage consultant. At this point, I'll hand over to the planning officer, Mr. Dave Watson.
There's nothing in the addendum, thank you, Chairman. I wanted just to refer to something that one of the speakers mentioned about the speaker mentioned the impact on the listed building and not forming part of the previous listed building consent. And what the speaker was referring to is the inner sea wall, which is a well talked about aspect of the development. So I wanted to respond to that, really, just to give members some background information and understand why we're recommending approval. The inner sea wall is, as I think is agreed now between all parties, that the wall that's talked about as the inner sea wall was the old retaining wall, basement retaining wall to the pavilion building. So that pavilion building and that aspect of the remains of the pavilion building were being removed by the previous scheme that was approved. And I think to suggest that those works weren't in the previous listed building consent, I think is I don't agree with that approach, because quite clearly the listed building consent covered the works, covered the removal of that part of the building in order to construct the scheme. And it's been talked about more now because it's been highlighted by objectors and made and sort of made into suggest that it isn't something that was included previously. But I really don't see that I don't agree with that approach. Obviously, the merits of the removal of that part of the building is something which we can talk about, but officers are happy with that. There isn't a great deal of merit in that building, in that part of the building, and we don't see that there's a particular significant harm to the loss of that part of the building, and archaeological recording would effectively provide some mitigation to that loss. So we think that matter's covered in terms of the recommendation and the information that we have available. Thank you, Chairman.
Thanks, Mr. Watson. Members, I'll open it up for members' comments. Councillor Peter Lewis.
Thank you, Chair. Perhaps if I can just answer perhaps a comment that Mr. Best made when I referred to the fact that there had been no overall scale had not significantly changed. I was referring to the variation. Obviously, we were aware at the original application of the size of the building. So the comment I made, and I think Councillor Chris made a similar one, was actually in regard to the variation. So I'd like to move the recommendation, Chair. It will be CADU who will ultimately make the decision on this, and they're in the best position to make any comment. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Peter. Councillor Phil Capper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and congratulations to both of you. Yeah, my question refers to what Mr. Watson was saying, and also to the point made by Mr. Gregory Jones, that because the original application, the listed building consent wasn't part of the original application, therefore it couldn't be a variation. And although I appreciate what Mr. Watson's saying, could we have some legal advice on that?
Would Lisa or Freddie, would you like to come in, Freddie?
Yes, I'm happy to jump in and address that the approach taken to the determination of the application overall and the scope of the application as set out in the officer report has been reviewed from a legal perspective. And we're content that the approach taken to that determination as set out in the officer report is a legally correct one. So clearly that's not accepted by the objectors, apologies, as has been outlined by Mr. Jones, but that there is a disagreement there. The advice to this committee is that the approach set out in the officer report is a legally sound one.
Thank you, Freddie.
So just, sorry, Mr. Chairman, there's a motorbike going past.
It's all right.
Sorry, it's gone now.
There you go. Come back in, Phil.
Right, okay. So we're saying that despite the fact that it wasn't part of the original application, it's perfectly legitimate for it to be a variation. Is that what we're saying, Mr. Chairman?
Can you just confirm, please, Freddie?
Sorry, do you mean in relation to the listed building consent, or do you mean
Yes.
the broader application?
No, the listed building consent specifically, it not being, it's suggested it's not part of the original application, therefore it can't be a variation. But we're saying that that isn't a consideration, are we?
We're saying that the listed building consent application that is now before the committee and what that application is for, the committee are entitled to determine that application on the basis it's made, and that to determine it on the sort of premise that's been set out in the officer report would be lawful.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Phil. Thanks, Freddie. Councillor Nigel Smith.
Thank you, Chair. I don't seem to be able to start my video.
That's
For some reason, but you can hear me, I'm sure.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, hang on, click, I'll start my video. There we go.
There we
No,
are. I can
won't
see you.
start. So anyway, you can, oh, you can see me.
Yeah,
Right,
we've got you.
all right. So question really is that I'm really concerned about the good name of Conway and our officers, and if and when this this application, if approved, and the previous application is challenged, goes to appeal, who will be fighting that appeal on our behalf? Will it be the officers, or will it be the members that have approved it?
Reddy, perhaps you can come in and answer that one for us, please.
If the application is granted by this committee, then the recourse anybody who's dissatisfied with that decision would be to legally challenge it, and so that would be a legal challenge to the High Court. The council would have to appoint a barrister to represent them in those proceedings and give advice on whether or not they should defend that decision. It would not be members having to give evidence, for example. That would be a legal process where the decision would be challenged on public law grounds before the High Court.
Thanks, Freddie.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Chris Cater, please.
Yes, the original pavilion was a substantial structure, and I'm sure there's plenty of walls and things that kept it up. Most of it's been destroyed by the fire. My worry, as I said in the previous debate, was concerning the iron colonnade columns, which I'm happy about. They're being retained and refurbished. But I just wanted to go back to the cast iron staircase, which I keep on coming back to because I can't really understand why it couldn't be incorporated in some shape or form. Can somebody sort of come back at that and just convince me that this has had to go? Because I would very much have liked it to be retained in some shape or form.
Can I bring in Dave on that one, Dave Watson?
I don't have a particularly, coherent answer, I'm afraid, to that. I think, it isn't part of the scheme that's been presented to retain the staircases or incorporate the staircases into the building. As the scheme is now presented, the line of the colonnade columns is being retained in its existing line. So that they actually step away from, or the line of them moves away from the front line of the building. And whereas in the previous scheme, there was they follow the line. Some of them would have been relocated to follow the line of the front of the building. Now they're not. They're being retained in their existing position. But in relation to the staircases would not be aligned with the front of the building. Whether they could be retained in that form. They wouldn't form any function. Like I say, I don't really have a particularly coherent answer to give to members on that. I wonder whether Jennifer would be able to give a more useful answer.
Jennifer?
I think, I actually do agree with you, but when I was asked to look at this scheme, it was in relation to the approved scheme. And in terms of heritage impact, it is a better scheme than the approved scheme. But I've stated before, I think the loss of the staircase is regrettable, and although I've not seen it myself, I question whether it is necessary. I think one thing we have moved on again, and we've put that wasn't in the amended scheme is the mitigation of recording what's there. So at least there will be a good record of that stair. That does go to some way to sort of mitigating its loss.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. Thanks, Dave. You happy with that, Chris?
I don't think I'll ever be happy that it's going to be lost, but the horse has bolted, hasn't it?
Maybe there's somewhere that the staircase could be retained and removed and put somewhere within council land with a plaque. Seems a shame to scrap it, so maybe that's something we could speak to the developer about as an aside at some point.
Get Mark Baker to put it into I'm a celebrity, get him out of here.
That might not be a bad idea, Councillor. Councillor Ken Stevens.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, my question was along similar lines, actually. It would be a shame to lose these. I'm sure there must be a way to refurbish them and incorporate them in the existing design some way or other. But the other comment I wanted to make was that I can't believe that somebody's going to buy one of these flats and then suddenly, with horror, realise that it's right next to a very busy promenade. They're going to know what they're buying anyway. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks for your comments, Councillor Ken. Councillor Tristram.
Diolch yn fawr, Cadeirydd. Dwi efo cynghorydd Chris Cater yn fan hyn. Siawns bod bosib defnyddio, fel oedd cynghorydd Hinchcliffe yn dweud, dyn ni'n mynd i allu cael adeilad fel oedd Pafiliwn y Pier eto, mae rhaid i ni wynebu hynny. Ond siawns bod bosib ymgorffori yr grisiau yma yn rhan o'r cynllun yma. Dwi'n meddwl bod o'n rhan o'n treftadaeth ni, rhan o dreftadaeth Llandudno. Ydy o'n bosib i ni rhoi drwy fath o amod yn deud bod bosib cynnwys ac ymgorffori y grisiau yma, fel dwi'n dweud, yn gymaint o ran o'r adeilad blaenorol. Felly, just cwestiwn, oes y bosib rhoi rhywbeth o'r math?
Thanks, Tristan. Dave, can you come back in, perhaps give us some advice on that, or maybe Paula? We'll bring in Dave first.
I'm trying to think of the answer, really. Well, I think we, as an authority, would need to know that they are being incorporated in a meaningful way, in order for us to want them to be incorporated, unless we take the view that they are just going to stay in their existing position and perhaps be refurbished in that position, if that was possible. So one way or the other, either going to stay where they are, or they would be refurbished or incorporated. I think we'd really need to know what's achievable in order for us to put a condition on it, in my mind. So I think we'd have to ask the applicant to clarify whether or not it's feasible and achievable to retain them and refurbish them in their existing position, or to incorporate them. And I don't think we could just put a condition on without knowing what the final result's going to be.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Councillor Chris Cater.
Yeah, thank you. Would it be possible to request that the staircases are stored suitably, or kept somewhere, so that if a scheme in the town came about, we've had a lot of we had the Penderyn whiskey place being built and so on, whether it could be used in another development or another situation. I know that the Colwyn Bay Pier, their heritage colonnades and things were saved. Is it a possibility that the developer could agree to saving it and restoring it and keeping it?
Thanks, Councillor Chris. I'll bring in the developer, Mr. Alan Waldron. He's raised his hand. I'm happy to come in to perhaps assist with this discussion. Mr. Waldron, would you like to take yourself off mute?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, the part of the agreement with Hugh Davis was that we would retain those staircases and keep them somewhere else, so the council can use them whenever they wish, or would eventually find somewhere else to use them.
Thanks very much for confirming that, Mr. Waldron. Members happy with that reply? I know it's unusual to bring in a speaker again, but I think that was most helpful. Members happy with that? I know, Chris, you raised the question, and Tristan. I'll bring in, let's see, they're in order. Councillor Ken Stevens.
Thanks, Chair. I just wanted to say that in Pembrokeshire, we're going through a series of replacing lampposts, and I've had about half a dozen of the old cast iron lampposts saved, because if we ever refurbish Eaton Hall Gardens, the Victoria lampposts will fit in there. So I can't see why we can't do the same thing with these staircases. Thanks, Chair.
I think Mr. Waldron's just answered that, and so much as he will store them, and we can perhaps come up with a scheme in the future. So that answer, hopefully you're happy with that answer. Councillor Peter Lewis.
Well, my own comments, I'm all for, storing them, Chair. I just wondered whether or not they would actually satisfy building regulations as they're constructed at the moment going forward.
Oh, don't start another hair rolling.
I think you're off mute there, Councillor Hinchcliffe. Councillor Watson. Councillor Watson, I'm getting confused now. Staircases and councillors. Dave Watson, is that something you can answer for Peter?
In terms of the building regulations, I can't, I'm afraid. No, I mean, I think it's feasible that the council could find, or somebody could find a use for the staircases in another building, possibly, but they, whether that is actually an appropriate use for them, I think is possibly it would keep the staircases, but they might be incorporated in a way which doesn't really protect the staircases. It depends how they're incorporated. It may not be a particularly meaningful way, sort of historically, or in terms of that aspect of the listed building. So I don't, but I think it's achievable that a future use could be found for them. I'm just not quite sure how useful that future use will be. In terms of building regulations, I don't know. I don't have any knowledge of them, I'm afraid.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Watson. Can I suggest that we accept Mr. Waldron's offer for us to retain the staircases with a view to looking at this at a later date and trying to find somewhere where they can be incorporated rather than bounce around what we can do at this very moment. Also, staircase, we're looking at this part of this proposal is about the CADU. I think the staircases has just taken us a little bit away from where we should be going. Councillor Eva Lloyd.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I quite agree. What's in front of us here is not being discussed. I think as the person who made reference to the balustrade on the pier in Colwyn Bay and asked them to be retained and reconditioned before they were reused. They were a facade, and whatever we do with the staircase will be a facade as well, because I doubt they would pass health and safety regulations. What I am going to ask, though, if the applicant is happy to recondition them so they're not a cost to the council in the future. So not just store them, but recondition them as part of their own viability of the development in hand.
Okay, I'm going to bring in Lisa. I've seen Lisa put her hand up, and then Bryn. Actually, Lisa, if you don't mind, I'll bring Bryn in first.
That's fine, Chair.
Thank you. You're on mute, Bryn. Bryn, that's it. There you go.
Sorry, that's a pretty elementary mistake, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I think we just need to be a bit careful here. The conversation is going into matters which aren't really part of the application process. Can I suggest that you leave matters in relation to the staircase with the officers to take it up with the developer and outside this meeting, and that the matters at hand, the application before you, so that you deal with the matters which are within the report. You have a proposal before you, and that we leave the matters of the staircase for another time. I think we probably need to move away from that.
Thanks. Thank you, Rin. I think that's what I was trying to steer it with my last comment. So thanks for your advice on that. I see Lisa was probably going through advices on the same thing. Councillor Andrew Hinchcliffe.
Sorry, my comment, I didn't realise I was unmuted, but
you're okay.
I was only going to second Councillor Peter Lewis, otherwise we'd just go on and on and on.
Thank you, Andrew. That's a good step forward, I think. Okay, I don't see any other hands up. We now have a proposer, Councillor Peter Lewis, and a seconder, Councillor Andrew Hinchcliffe, that we go with the officer's recommendations to advise CADU. So I'll ask Jane to take us to the vote, please.
Okay, thank you, members. If you can state clearly if you're for, against or abstaining. Councillor Philip Capper.
For.
Councillor Chris Cater.
For.
Councillor Pauline Heap-Williams.
For.
Councillor Andrew Hinchcliffe.
For.
Councillor Alan Hunter.
Abstain.
Councillor Peter Lewis.
For.
Councillor Tristan Lewis.
Obliged.
Councillor Yvonne Lloyd.
Obliged.
Councillor Dave Rees.
For.
Councillor Austin Roberts.
Obliged.
Councillor Nigel Smith.
Immatal.
Councillor Ken Stevens.
For.
And Councillor Trevor Stott.
Abstain, Jane. Sorry about that.
Okay, thank you, members. That's 10 in favour and 3 abstentions.
Thank you, Jane. Thanks again, members. Application has been approved. Okay, we move on to the next one on the agenda, which is code reference 048187, which is a proposed change of use of a tattoo studio to a self-contained flat. This has come back to us because members went against the officer's recommendation at the last meeting. So we're just revisiting this one to see if we are still content with the decision. I'll hand over to the planning officer at this point.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to remind members that the addendum, the only thing it contains is the further comments from NRW, which were following our notification that the council is intending to grant permission contrary to its objection. NRW has now advised that in view of the guidance from Welsh Government and the background to the application and the way it was reported and considered by committee, it will not be asking Welsh ministers to call in and determine the application. Thank you.
Okay, members, I can see Councillor Peter Lewis.
Well, thank you, Chair. I just want to re-endorse the decision we made last month and welcome the decision of NRW on this matter. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Peter. Councillor Ken Stevens.
I'd like to second Councillor Peters' proposal, Chair. This building is in a mix of shops and houses in the street, so it wouldn't be out of place. I'd like to second it, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Eva Lloyd.
Ie, ni isio ail cefnogi argymelliad eto. Okay.
Councillor Nigel Smith.
Yes, Chair, I, like Peter, welcome the U-turn by NRW. Great news.
Thank you, Nigel. Okay, can't see any other hands up. Apart from Councillor Ken still got his up, but I'm sure he's about to take it down. Thanks, Ken. Okay, members, we'll take that to the vote. If Jane can read out the names.
Okay, thank you, members. If you can, again, state clearly if you're for, against or abstaining. Councillor Philip Capper.
For.
Councillor Chris Cater.
For.
Councillor Pauline Heap-Williams. Councillor Pauline. I think she may have left the meeting. Councillor Andrew Hinchcliffe.
For.
Councillor Alan Hunter.
Abstain.
Councillor Peter Lewis.
For.
Councillor Tristan Lewis.
Obliged.
Councillor Yvonne Lloyd.
Obliged.
Councillor Dave Rees.
For.
Councillor Austin Roberts.
Obliged.
Councillor Nigel Smith.
Obliged.
Councillor Ken Stevens.
For.
And Councillor Trevor Stott. Councillor Trevor, are you there?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, for, Jane.
Okay, thank you, members. That's 11 in favour and 1 abstention.
Thank you, members. That is carried. Next item is to consider the following applications. Code reference 048240, which is a variation of condition number 242 of planning consent 024808, which is demolition of existing buildings and erection of a new replacement Asda store and petrol filling station, phase 1, and non-food retail park phase 2, together with the associated car parking, landscaping and highway improvements to allow rewording of condition 2 within unit 1, not more than 1,115 square meters. Sales area shall be used for sale of food in addition to an in-store cafe, coffee bar, takeaway and or restaurant area, unit 1, Park Llandudno, Conway Road, Llandudno, Conway, LL30 1PX. That was in your pack, pages 151 to 164. We have a speaker, so I'd like to introduce this public speaker at this point, which is Miss Julie White, the agent who is speaking in favour. Ms. White, you have 3 minutes and you'll be advised when you have 30 seconds left if you'd like to start your speech. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, members. As we all know, this is a difficult time for retailers, and particularly those with a strong bricks and mortar presence. In recent years, M&S have been reviewing and rationalising their estate, and in Llandudno, this resulted in the closure of one of their 2 stores on Mostyn Street and a recognition that their remaining store is extremely constrained and no longer capable of providing the customer experience necessary for a long-term viable location. Therefore, in 2018, M&S started a dialogue with the council about alternative locations for their store. Obviously, in the intervening period, retailers, including many large format national brands, have continued to face challenges, and some have disappeared from our high streets. Once it became apparent that this would unfortunately include Debenhams, it created an opportunity for M&S to remain in Llandudno in a highly visible and accessible location immediately adjacent to the primary shopping area of the town centre. As your officers note, planning permission is not required for M&S to relocate to Unit 1 of Park Llandudno, which benefits from consent for non-food retail and a small element of food retail. Planning permission is only required to increase the area used for the sale of food. The Conway retail study confirms that there's a need for additional food floor space within the area of Conway North, leaving just 180 square metres to demonstrate the need for. The catchment area for M&S extends beyond Llandudno and Conway North, and especially as the nearest alternative stores are at Bangor and Prestatyn. Therefore, we believe the need identified within the wider area could, in very small part, be met by these proposals. This would leave capacity for other new floor space within Conway Central to be brought forward without undermining the retail strategy contained within PPW 11 and the local plan. In this context, we welcome the officers' support within their reports and the addendum and recognition that all policy requirements have now been met, leading to the recommendation to approve the application. We also welcome the recognition of the other benefits that the proposals will bring to Llandudno, and in particular, the proposed amendment to the condition will enable M&S, which is classed as a key attractor retailer, to stay in Llandudno, and it will also enable the existing jobs in M&S to be retained. The new store will enable M&S to create an enhanced shopping experience for their customers, which is hugely important when trying to compete with online retailers and critical to the success of a new store. The store that will be vacated on Mostyn Street will be acquired by Stadium, the applicants for this application and the owners of Park Llandudno. And clearly Stadium are already heavily invested in Llandudno and working to ensure it bounces back from the effects of the pandemic. Taking on the old store and actively seeking to secure a viable future for the building will bring further benefits to the town. We trust that members can see the multiple benefits arising from the proposals and endorse their officers' recommendation to approve the application. Thank you, Chair. Members.
Thank you, Ms. White. I'll now bring in the planning officer, Mr. Dave Watson. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Chairman. The addendum members, the further information has been submitted by the applicant in relation to the policy comments. Further information includes more information on the sequential assessment and quantitative need for the scheme, the qualitative need for the scheme, the retail impact of the development, and there's also a letter of support submitted from Marks and Spencer's. The planning policy section further comments. They have no concerns regarding the additional information submitted for the sequential assessment, subject to case officer assessment of the requirements set out in TAN 4. And they also have no further comments on the additional impact assessment details. The officers have revised the recommendation to be minded to approve conditional planning permission subject to completion of the deed of variation to the 106 agreement to allow the additional convenience floor space. Thank you, Chairman.
Thanks, Dave. Okay, members, Councillor Chris Cater.
Yes, well, as we know, there are extreme challenges at the moment with the retail sector, and I just welcome this investment in Llandudno and the fact that we'll hopefully keep our M&S store and it'll become, adapted for the new world, really, that we're going to be living in post-COVID. So I'd like to propose that we support the officer's recommendation on this one.
Thank you, Councillor Chris. Councillor Tristan.
Diolch yn fawr, Mr Cadeirydd. Dwi'n meddwl mod i fel cynghorydd bach yn mynd i allu stopio y tren anferthol yma. Mae gennym ni fusnes fel teulu'n Llandudno, a mae o'n hoelen arall yn yn harch ni, os nad yr hoelen farwol. Achos wedi i Marks fynd o Llandudno, ganol Llandudno, mi fydd o, fel mae'r Saes yn dweud, a ghost town. Cerwch i Lanelli, lle mae parc trostre, ydy lladd Llanelli i gyd. Mae strydoedd cyfan yn Llanelli sydd heb math o siope a jyst yn lefydd i bordio fyny. Does e ddim byd wedi dod i Marks dynion, lle oedd ochr arall y St John's, a coeliwch i fi, mi fydd y Marks arall neu unau yn siop elusennol neu yn adeilad arall fydd wedi wyrthu fyny. Mae gennym ni, dwi'n gwybod faint o gwsmeriad a faint o bobl sy'n cael ei denu i ganol tre Llandudno oherwydd Marks and Spencers. A pan ath Marks o'r Rhyl, mi ddaru o gael effaith andwyol ar dre y Rhyl. Ac wrth gwrs mi gafodd effaith positif iawn i dre Prestatyn. A mae'r un peth yn mynd i ddigwydd yn Llandudno. Mae'n mynd i ladd canol y dre, mi fyddwn ni'n gweld mwy a mwy o siopau wedi fyrddu fyny, a fel dwi'n deud, mi fydd o'n lladd canol y tre, mi fydd pobl yn dod i Asda, yn dod i Marks, fydd nhw'n cael eu petrol ar gyrru yn y dre ac yn gyrru one. Felly, fel dwi'n deud, mae'n hoelen go fawr, dwi'n deud, yn arch Llandudno.
Okay, thank you for your comments, Councillor Tristan. Can I bring in Bryn first, please, and then Councillor Nigel.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. Just gwrando ar y cynghorydd Tristan yn fanna, yn amlwg, da chi o'r farn bod y datblygiad yma mynd i effeithio'ch busnes chi. Ar y sail yna, dwi'n meddwl mae'r rhaid i gynghori chi ddatgan buddiant ar y cais yma ag ymadal. Gan bod chi wedi deud yn uniongyrchol bod symud y siop yn mynd i effeithio'ch busnes chi, dwi'n meddwl bod gennau ddewis ond eich cynghori chi i ddatgan a gadael, ia.
Mae hynny ddigon teg, a dwi wedi cael deud yn neud, a felly mi na i adael. Diolch.
Jane, could you arrange for Tristan to go into the waiting room?
Yes, by all means. Bear with me, members.
Thank you for coming in and your sound advice there, Rin. Councillor Nigel. Sorry, is he out? Yeah?
Yes. Okay. Please continue.
Councillor Nigel. Councillor Nigel Smith, your hand was up. Have you... Okay. Councillor Evo.
Thank you. My father used to have a saying, which was, there's a taste on something, there's no taste on nothing. We are still keeping that company within the curtilage of the town. So people will still be in the same town. So it's their choice to go in town or out town, but they'll still be in the town somewhere or in its curtilage. So I would like to support the recommendation. So I'd like to second Councillor Cater's recommendation. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Evo. Councillor Nigel Smith.
Sorry about that, Chair. My phone was ringing.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a bittersweet thing, this. You know, it's sad for the centre of Llandudno, but it's really good for the town of Llandudno. So I would have seconded Councillor Cater's proposal. Obviously, Councillor Eva has done that. And I think we should be grateful that M&S are looking to invest in the area. And you know, this application is only about a small increase in the amount of square footage of food sales. That's all it is. And, you know, so, yeah, let's approve it. That's what I say. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Nigel. Councillor Andrew Hinchcliffe.
Thank
you. Oh, you muted yourself, Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. I following on from what Councillor Tristan said, it's quite obvious that as stores move out of the immediate town centre, the town centre suffers. Bangor is a terrible example. It once had the longest high street in Wales, and now most of it is closed or bargain shops. And when people say Bangor is busy, they mean the Carnarvon Road stores are busy. I think it's for the government to take away business rates for the centres of towns and charge business rates at business rates for the shops out of the centre. I think, for instance, Tesco in the junction pays a fraction of what Marks pay in the middle of Llandudno, and they don't compare. We've got to press for a change in the rating system, and only then will we get the interesting shops back into shopping centres. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Andrew. Perhaps that's something you can bring to full council at some point. Perhaps we can pursue that route you're suggesting. So thank you for your comments. Councillor Phil Capper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I always enjoy the sage words of Councillor Evo's father. And in this instance, I agree entirely with them. It's better to have something within the area of Llandudno than to lose it altogether. So I will be supporting this.
Thanks, Councillor Phil. I understand the concerns of councillors, especially if they've got shops in the area, but I've always sort of, one of my sadnesses was to go and see the end of Debenhams recently. But generally when I go there, I go into the town centre as well. So hopefully that will continue with people still continue to use the big stores, but still see the value of the town high street in Llandudno. Just a personal thought on that one. Okay, I can't see any more hands up. So we have a proposer from Councillor Cato, seconded by Councillor Eva Lloyd, to go with the officer's recommendations. So Jane, if you can put that to the vote for us, please.
Yes, thank you, councillors. Please indicate if you're for, against or abstaining. Councillor Philip Capper.
For.
Councillor Chris Cater.
For.
Councillor Pauline Heap-Williams. I think she's definitely gone. Councillor Andrew Hinchcliffe.
Abstain.
Councillor Alan Hunter.
Abstain.
Councillor Peter Lewis.
For.
Councillor Eva Lloyd.
Lloyd.
Councillor Dave Rees.
For.
Councillor Austin Roberts.
Ymatal.
Councillor Nigel Smith.
Obliged.
Councillor Ken Stevens.
For.
Councillor Trevor Stott.
For.
Thank you, members. That's 8 in favour and 3 abstentions.
Okay, thank you, members. That's carried. Can we bring Councillor Tristan back into the meeting? There he is. Lovely. Okay, the next item on the agenda is Code Reference 048299, which is the erection of a dwelling in Cleafon, Aberhwyl, Pentrafoilus, Conwy, LL24 0LE on your packs pages 165 to 171. We have a couple of public speakers for this application. We have Mr. Claire Apgethin, the applicant, who will be speaking in favour. So if you'd like to unmute yourself, please, Mr. Apgethin. Okay. And you have 3 minutes, and you'll be notified when you're 30 seconds from the end. If you'd like to start, thank you.
Yn ychwanegol I fy natganiad personol, byddai'ch gystal a chymryd y sylwadau canlynol I ystyriaeth. Rwyf yn cyflwyno cais am dŷ syml, tair llofft a rhesymol o faint. Bydd yn gartref I mi a fy nheulu yn y dyfodol. Mae maint y tŷ yn adlewyrchu ein anghenion sef garej I gadw offer gwaith a swyddfa sydd yn hanfodol I redeg fy busnes yn ogystal ag alluogi fy mhadnar I weithio o adre. Mae fy ngwaith contractio yn seiliedig o amgylch yr ardal leol a hefyd mae mhadnar yn gweithio o adre ag yn ogystal ag yn y Bala. Felly mae'n lleiholiad pentre Foelas yn delfrydol I ni. Teimlo fod hwn yn opsiwn fforddiadwy I mi oherwydd fod y tir yn berchen I fy rhieni a byddaf yn cwblhau llawer o gwaith fy hun yn ogystal â dibynnu ar grefftwyr ac adeiladwyr lleol. Dyma fy unig siawns o gael parhau I fyw yn yr ardal enedigol oherwydd fod prisiau tai yn bell o fy nghyred. Mae prisiau tai wedi codi'n gyflym iawn dros y misoedd diwethaf. Bydd adeiladu tŷ fy hun yn y pentref yn fy ngalluogi I aros yma a chefnogi gymuned leol a hefyd ysgol y pentre yn y dyfodol. Os gai ailadrodd Elin Jones ar Wales This Week neithiwr, dweud bod tai fforddiadwy yn iawn ac yn wych i'r rhai sydd yn mynd I aros yn yr ardal am chydig o flynyddoedd a wedyn symud ymlaen. Ond ddim i'r rhai yn y ni sydd eisiau adeiladu tŷ am oes. A mae rhaid pwysleisio mai dyna ydy'n obaith I sef adeiladu cartref am oes I fi yn heulu. Mae gen I rwydwaith teuluol yn yr ardal, rhieni, chwaer, nain y taid ag ati. A bydd cael parhau fyw yn agos at nhw yn fe'n alluogi I dderbyn a rhoi cymorth pan bydd angen. Mae'r swyddog cynllunio yn awgrymu gall polisi Rural Enterprise Dwelling y cyngor gael ei dderbyn ond wedi mi ymchwilio i'r farchnad morgeisi, daeth yn amlwg fuasai sicrhau morgais yn amhosib. Mae fy opsiynau yn gyfynedig yn barod oherwydd fy mod yn hunan gyflogedig a fy incwm yn afreolaidd. Hefyd, oherwydd ei fod yn brosiect self-build, gallai terfynau polisi tan 6 wneud cyllido o prosiect yn challenge. Mae'r cynnydd mewn costau dynyddiau yn golygu byddaf angen gymaint o help a fydd bosib trwy morgais. Diolch am y cyfle I siarad heddiw a rwyf yn gobeithio bydd y Pwyllgor yn cefnogi fy nghais. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Apgethin. We have Councillor Garfield Lewis, who's the Llangefni ward member, speaking as that local ward member. So, Garfield, if you'd like to unmute, you have the usual 3 minutes, and you'll be advised when there's 30 seconds left.
Diolch yn fawr, Cadeirydd. I'm probably not on video, I'll carry on in Welsh. Diolch yn fawr. Diolch allan gorchiadau chi fyd ar eich penodiad. Yn dilyn y cais cyngor cynllunio, cyngor y cais cynllunio, yr ymateb a gafwyd yw bod y cais yn debyg o fethu o ganlyniad i'r cymal tai fforddiadwy, sy'n gysylltiedig ar ffaith bod pentre Foelas wedi dynodi'n bentre llai, sef minor village yn y cynllun datblygu. Wan dwi'n llwyr gefnogi'r egwyddor o greu tai fforddiadwy yn y sir, ond, fel dwi wedi dadlau sawl gwaith yn y gorffennol, mae'r canllawiau tai fforddiadwy yn gallu bod yn niweidiol I ffyniant ein cymunedau gwledig, ac yn ei gwneud hi'n anodd iawn os nad yn amhosib I bobl ifanc godi cartrefi iddyn nhw hunan a'u teuluodd yn eu pentrefi genedigol. Mae'r cyngor cyn-gynllunio, mae pre-planning advice yn nodi bod y polisia yn caniatáu dau pris marchnad gael eu codi mewn pentrefi, ond dim ond lle mae'n hwnna'n fodol I gynorthwyo I godi tai fforddiadwy ar yr un safle. Ond dwi'n credu bod y swyddog cynllunio yn dadlau y dyla'r ymgeisydd adeiladu 2 eiddo ar y safle, un gwerth y farchnad ac un tŷ fforddiadwy. Yn amlwg mae hyn yn gwbl amhosib yn Llŷr oherwydd maint y plot a chosta datblygu 2 eiddo ar yr un lle. Mae Llŷr yn byw efo'i rieni fel mae di sôn, yn di godi cartref o'i hun a'i bartnar drws nesaf i'w rieni ac ar dir sy'n eiddo i'r teulu. Mae'n di ddatblygu at tyfu ei fusnes, gan siŵr o fod yn y dyfodol, mynd I fagu teulu yn yr ardal hefyd. Ond nhw gyd yn ffactora pwysig iawn iawn. Does gan efo fawr obaith prynu cartre teulu fforddiadwy yn y pentre na'r cyffinia, mae'r prisiau'n rhyfeddol o uchel, ymhell tu hwnt I gyrraedd bobl ifanc. Prosiect hunan adeiladu di hwn I raddau helaeth, gan ddefnyddio ffrindiau teulu, cysylltiadau lleol a defnyddio ei brofiad ei hun fel contractwr amaethyddol. Bydd y ffactorau hyn i gyd yn y datblygiad yma yn ei wneud o'n fforddadwy iddo fo, nad yn cydymffurfio â'r fformula sydd yn y polisia cynllunio. Rydw i wedi delio o'r blaen o datblygiad tebyg ym Mhentref Oelas, oedd hefyd yn groes i'r canllawia tai fforddadwy, ac yn yr achos hwn i benderfynodd yr aelodau o blaid y datblygiad ac yn erbyn argymhelliad i wrthod. Mi nes i'r pwynt yn y pwyllgor hwnnw y dylai'n polisia cynllunio ni a'r modd yma nhw'n cael eu dehongli fod yn help, nid yn rhwystyr i bobl ifanc i godi tai, fydd yn gartre iddyn nhw am flynyddoedd lawer i ddod. Dwi'n gwneud yr union yr un pwynt heddiw yma. Pwrpas dod â'r cynnig hwn i'r pwyllgor cynllunio ydy gofyn aelodau graffu ar y dehongliad o'r polisia cynllunio sy'n ymwneud â mater tai fforddadwy, a sicrhau nad ydy'r polisia hynny yn gweithio yn erbyn pobl leol sy'n dymuno am gartrefu yn eu pentrau hunain. Mae hefyd angen herio canllawia tan 6. Dwi wedi bod yn gwrando ar y dadleuon diddorol iawn am ddatblygu tai a fflatiau'n Llandudno, pwysig iawn 100% o dai, ond gai bwysleisio a gofyn i'r pwyllgor yma roed yr un sylw i un cartre, i un teulu lleol ym Mhentref Oelas. Mae o'r un mor bwysig i ni yma yng nghefn gwlad. Felly gai ddiolch yn ofnadwy am y gwrandawiad. Mae'n bleser gen i gefnogi cais Llyr, a dwi'n mawr obeithio bydd y pwyllgor yn cefnogi'r cais yma hefyd.
Diolch yn fawr, Garfield. I'll open this open to members. Councillor Nigel Smith.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to Tristan for those fine words, I would say. Our policy, our planning policy, is failing our rural communities, and I've said this more than once. People are struggling to get on the housing ladder, and the Welsh language is struggling, and our rural communities are very, very important. And this planning policy really needs looking into. I would therefore like to propose that we go against the officer's recommendation and approve this application. And I wish the applicant and his family all the very best for the future. And I do hope that my fellow committee members will also support this young family. Thank you, and well done, Claire, and good luck.
Okay, members, thanks for that, Nigel. I've made a bit of a boo-boo, an error. I didn't bring in the planning officer before. I thought Nigel was a planning officer for a minute. Anyway, clearly he isn't. So can I please bring in the planning officer first before I bring any other councillors in? I had to make one on my first day, didn't I?
Thank you, Chair. There is one update on the addendum, and that is it notes planning policy notes requirements for planning obligations for waste £81 and open space £829.71. However, the cost of preparing the legal agreement would exceed these contributions. Officers do not seek a section 106 unless one is required for other purposes. The other thing I would say, I mean, I understand the concerns about the policy, and I understand that there is concern that the policy is too restrictive. The one thing I would like to say, first of all, you need to balance, the approach you need to take is to balance the development plan against other material considerations. The Act does require decisions to be made in accordance with the development plan unless material considerations indicate otherwise. And if the members wish to go against the recommendation, that's fine. But they do need to come up with material planning considerations that are of sufficient robustness that if they did need to be tested, could be proven to be demonstrated to be sufficient to override the development plan policy. And the other point I would like to say is that it's not just local LDP policies that support these restrictions, but we also have Planning Policy Wales and the new Future Wales document, which support the same direction. So if members do feel that the policies are too restrictive, they have the opportunity in the forthcoming LDP review to seek a relaxation of the policies, and no doubt that will be debated in future meetings of the LDP review groups. But until the LDP, the replacement LDP is adopted, then the policies in the Conwy Local Development Plan remain the statutory development plan. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Kerry. Glad I brought you in. Sorry I missed you out in the first place. Okay, back to the usual order of play, and it's Councillor Peter Lewis, please.
Thank you, Chair. I don't know whether officers can actually bring up the plan of the site, which appeared on page 171 in the documentation.
Do we have that?
I'll ask Julia to bring up. So I'm sorry, I don't have the plan, the slide number.
There we are. Okay, Peter, is it scrolling through now? Can everyone see them? Yeah. Okay. If you want to ask us to stop, or Julia to stop, whatever you want us to really look at, Peter.
What which actually is an aerial view of the village road and of the site and school that I was referring to.
Okay, is that the one?
Well, it's not the one that appeared in the documentation anyway.
It's the plan view. It is that it shows a ribbon development.
Thanks, Ivo. Can we carry on scrolling? Unfortunately, my laptop's just frozen, so I can't actually bring up the view that Peter's referring to himself now, but I have seen it. Ah, there we go. Is it on the top right corner?
Yes, sorry, I'd like to give clarification. It's the triangular, the application site is the triangular plot of land that you see adjacent to the existing house known as Llifon. So the plan on the top left-hand side of the screen shows the layout of the site with a dwelling with that direct access onto the road.
Well, that will suffice, Chair. What I was going to highlight is that the properties in the southeast on the lower side of the road actually are open market properties. So there's probably, I think, 5 or 6 of them to my knowledge. On the opposite side of the road is RSL housing. And my argument would be that this proposal in actual fact is within the settlement boundary of the village. Mention was made of the TV programme last night, which highlighted similar issues, but they differed significantly in so much that they were actually on open farmland, where this is in actual fact, as I said, in part of the settlement boundary. So I think for me, the important thing is really that it's an opportunity for a person to actually reside in an area where he lived. I understand officers have got no other option but to refuse it, because that's what the planning policy says, and has been highlighted until that change happens. The officers can't do anything else, but I feel on this occasion it's an opportunity for us, for members, to recognise that fact and that as the applicant highlighted, the difficulty for him in actually raising a mortgage, which would even be greater if they were to try and do it based on the officer's recommendation of one affordable house and one open market. So I'd like to second Councillor Nigel's proposal, Chair.
Thank you, Peter. We'll come back to Nigel because, as Kerry mentioned, we do need a robust reason to go against the officer's recommendation. So while I bring in other councillors, perhaps Nigel might like to give that some thoughts, come back to us. We have Councillor Andrew Hinchcliffe next.
Thank you, Chair. I was going to second it. if there is a reason, this is infill inside of a settlement boundary. The plot is very little use for anything else. And if it helps this young man stay in his community, I'm absolutely in favour of it. I cannot see what else you would do with this land other than build a house on it. For us to be prevaricating about whether it's correct in the district plan, I think is quite ridiculous, and I fully support Councillor Peter and Councillor Nigel.
Thanks, Councillor Hinchcliffe. Next, I can see Councillor Austin Roberts.
Diolch yn fawr, Cynghorydd Alan Hunter, a gai yn gyntaf eich llongyfarchu ar eich etholiad fel cadeirydd newydd y pwyllgor hwn, ac hyd yn hyn, da chi wedi gwneud job penny gamp. A gai hefyd llongyfarch y cynghorydd Dave Rees fel is-gadeirydd hefyd. Ia, mae hwn yn rhywbeth a dwi'n gwybod bod y mwyafrif o'na chi'n gwybod lle dwi'n sefyll yn y dan yma. Os ydyn ni o ddifri calon yn teimlo bod hi'n hanfodol bwysig bod ni'n cadw ein pobl ifanc yn ein cymunedau ni, enwedig yn y cymunedau Cymraeg i haith. Yna mae'n hanfodol bod ni'n datrys ffordd o ddod rownd y broblemau o dai fforddiadwy. A dwi'n dallt y polisi, a mae'r polisi yn ei hun, mae o yn rhywbeth sydd i ddefnyddio geiriau Saesneg, it means well, ond tydio ddim yn ddigonol. Does a ddim specification yn y final detail os liciwch chi. A hefyd, pwrpas y polisi yma oedd i ofalu mewn un ffordd dros pentrefi Cymraeg i haith. Ond mae o'n pwysleisio bod o yn bolisi sydd yn cefnogi i bobl leol medru fforddio tai yn eu cymunedau. Y peth ydy yn hyn, mae'r bachgen ifanc yma wedi dod o hyd o ffordd lle mae o'n medru adeiladu tŷ iddo fo ei hun a'i ddarpar wraig a magu teulu, a trwy wneud hynny cadw dyfodol ysgol Gymraeg i haith fel Pentref Wales yn fyw, cadw y siop yn y gymuned yn fyw a sawl cymuned sy'n yna o gwmpas Gogledd Cymru, afo siop erbyn hyn. Mae yna 2 dafarn yn leol, a dwi'n gwybod bod nhw wedi cael ar hyn o bryd oherwydd Covid, ond pan fydd heini'n agor wych chi. Felly mae hyn yn dod o dan tan 6, cynaladwyaeth cefn gwlad. Hefyd, mae o'n dod o dan tan 20, sef cynaladwyaeth yr iaith Gymraeg. A wedi cyfan, dwi'n gwybod bod hwn yn un polisi, falle bod ni'n mynd yn ei erbyn, ond mae yna bolisi ehangach, sef polisi Llywodraeth Caerdydd, lle mae o yn anelu at 1,000,000 o siaradwyr Cymraeg erbyn 2,500. Felly mae'n hanfodol bod ni'n cadw pobl ifanc fel hir yn y cymunedau yma. Felly dwi'n 100% tu cefn i'r cais yma, ac hefyd dwi yn cynnig bod ni'n defnyddio tan 6 a tan 20 fel rhesymau i gyfiawnhau hynny. Yn y dwywaith cefn gwlad. Diolch yn fawr, Mr Cadeirydd.
Diolch, Austin. I've got a notice to say that Councillor Trevor Stott's having a problem with the hand raising. So can I bring in Councillor Trevor Stott? I can see all of the hands up, so I'll bring Trevor in, and then I'll do it in the order that we've got. I'd like to unmute yourself, please, Councillor Trevor. You can see your lips moving. You're still on mute.
Councillor Trevor.
There we are. Are we going? Yeah.
Yeah, go on. We can hear you.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that, Mr. Chairman, but okay. I do put the hand signal up. But then when you ask somebody else to speak, my hand signal disappears.
Oh, well, thanks for sending me the
Somebody's got it in for me.
We've got there. Right.
Yeah.
Tell us what you think.
Yeah, I take on board what the planning officer said, and I think this really needs to be looked at when the next LDP is formed, because we're getting these applications, and
And I agree with what the members are saying, that, you know, we have like somebody from the village who wants to stay in the village and to continue working, obviously, within that area. And if we're going to maintain and sustain the village community and the Welsh language, then we have to support these things. We have to weigh them up, obviously. But I think that policy now really needs to be looked at. And that's why I will support this application, which is not normal for me to go against officers. But on this one, I feel that the policy doesn't fit.
Thanks for your comments, Councillor Trevor. Thank you. Councillor Tristan Lewis.
Diolch, Mr Cadeirydd, a gai ymddiheuro na nes I longyfarchu yn flaenorol wrth cael eich penodi ar is-gadeirydd. Oeddwn ni 'di exeitio braidd efo Marks and Spencers, a wedyn nes I ddim eich llongyfarchu. Ond ar hyn oedd sgynna I isio ddeud wedi cael ei ddeud yn ardderchog gyda chynghorwyr blaenorol. Ond dyma'n union dyn ni isio I gefn gwlad ynde. Mae yna ddiboblogi ar y naill llaw yng gefn gwlad lle mae bobl ifanc ni'n gorfod symud I ffwrdd o'r ardal, yn gorfod symud I ddinasoedd ag ati I weithio, ac ar y naill llaw, beth sgynno ni wedyn wrth gwrs ydy'r broblem tai ha, lle mae bobl yn symud I mewn, a dim problem efo hynny, ond beth sy'n digwydd wedyn ydy bod yr pentrefi yma wedyn yn mynd yn wag, mae siop leol y ganlyniad yn cael, mae'r ysgol yn gorfod cael, wedyn dyma'n yn union dyn ni isio, sef bobl ifanc cynhenid o'r ardal sydd yn mynd I sicrhau bod y pentre'n ffynnu, cefnogi'r ysgol, busnesau lleol, a bod wrth gwrs bod chapi hyn efo busnes yn yr ardal. Wedyn dwi mor falch bod y cynghorwyr I gyd yn sylweddoli mor bwysig ydy cefnogi y cais yma. Diolch yn fawr, Mr Cadeirydd.
Diolch yn fawr, Tristan. Councillor Ken Stevens.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, as far as I can see, this is infill housing. I don't really have a problem with it, but I mean, I'd like to see affordable wages rather than affordable houses. I'd like to see people being able to afford houses at market value anywhere. I think that's the problem we've got, whether it's urban areas or otherwise. But yeah, I don't have any problems with this, Chair.
Okay, thanks for your comments, Councillor Ken. Councillor Ivo.
Diolch, Cadeirydd. Ie, mae'r gair cynnadwyedd yn codi ben eto. Mae llanoedd bach fatha Pentrefoelas, maen nhw fatha nyth sydd yn dydwy yr iaith ac yn dydwy diwylliant be dyn ni'n trio cadw yn cefn gwlad I ehangu I gweddill y sir. Dyn ni wedi sôn am tan 6. Wel, sut dyn ni'n mynd I gweithio hefo'r polisi sydd yn ei law? Wel, fe rhaid ni addasu o. A'r unig ffordd wedi wneud hynny ydy sbio ar bolisys eraill sydd rownd o wlad, dim just yng Nghymru, ond sbio ar llefydd fatha St Ives, lawr yn Cernyw, a sut maen nhw'n addasu bolisi nhw I ffurfio polisi be maen nhw'n galw principal residency policies, a gwneud o ffitio I ni a gweld os wneud hynny gweithio hefo cadw y diwylliant a'r iaith Cymraeg yn fyw. So dwi'n hollol gefnogol I beth sydd wedi cael ei ddeud yn barod, a gawn ni gweithio efo'r addasiad yr LDP newydd yma I wneud pethau gweithio'n well i'r bolisi yma. Dyn ni wedi gweld faint o weithiau wan yn yr 3-4 mlynedd dwytha, sefyllfa lle dyn ni'n trio cadw teuluoedd bach yn yr gymunedau yma, a dyma fo eto. So, yeah, dwi'n hollol gefnogol i'r cais I helpu'r bobl yma cael aros yn ei ardal. Diolch.
Thank you, Councillor Ivo. Can I just bring in Lisa, our legal officer? Lisa?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. Yes, sorry, it was just to totally echo really what Mr. Thomas advised earlier regarding the legal position with the local development plan. And obviously, just to remind members if they're going to be resolving to go against the officer's recommendation, as it is a departure from the LDP. Just to be very clear on the reasons, please, before you take it to the vote, Chair. So the planning officers are clear as to what those reasons are.
Thank you, Lisa. Thanks for your advice.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll bring in Councillor Nigel, who made the original proposal to go against the officer's recommendation. If you'd like to elaborate.
Yeah, well, it's interesting that officers are concerned, it says in the report, about granting additional planning permission because it's going to restrict the building of affordable houses. And yet there's been a distinct lack of building of affordable houses in the rural areas, and that's been part of the issue. Excuse me while I just move to a quieter part of my business. So my reasons really for supporting this application and Claire and his family is that it will help sustain the Welsh language and the use of the Welsh language, which I think is all part of TAN 20. It'll help sustain the rural communities. As an agricultural worker, it also, I feel, it satisfies part of TAN 6 and complies with the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act. I think, as I've said many times, and Councillor Trevor Stott also mentioned, that the HOU2, where we specify 100% affordable in rural areas, really needs looking at. And I urge my fellow committee members to speak with James Harland, and we need to look at a better way of helping our rural communities bring forward housing, because every time there's an application, officers seem to be saying no, and I think it's unfair on them and unfair for the future of the Welsh language and rural communities. So there's my reasons, Chair. I hope that's enough, but if anybody wants to add to that, feel free.
I'm just about to bring in the seconder, Councillor Peter Lewis.
Thank you, Chair. Two things that perhaps I would like to add on. First of all, that Councillor Austin mentioned TAN 20 as a reason which Councillor Nigel hasn't. The other thing is that compared with these applications that have been referred to Welsh Government, I think it's important that this is within the settlement boundary. And the other thing is that it maintains and supports local employment, which I think is equally important.
Thanks, Councillor Peter. You happy to add those to your proposal, Councillor Nigel?
Most definitely, yeah.
Thank you. I take it that those comments have been noted. Okay, I can't see any more hands up, members. So we have a proposal from Councillor Nigel Smith, seconded by Councillor Peter Lewis, that we go against the officer's recommendation and allow this development. Lisa, I can see your hand up again.
Yeah, sorry, Chair. It was just to confirm also, as it's contrary to the officer's recommendation, it will have to be reported to the next planning committee for redetermination by the members.
Thanks, Lisa.
Okay.
Okay, members. Jane, can you go to the vote, please?
Yes, will do. So members, if you can please indicate if you're for, against or abstaining. Councillor Philip Capper.
For.
Before we go any further, sorry, Lisa, your hand's still up. Did you want to come back in before we go to this vote, or just not?
No, sorry, Chair. I'll take it down. Sorry.
Sorry, Jane. Just want to
That's
make
okay.
sure it's not illegal.
I'll start again if you've no objection. Councillor Philip Capper.
Still for.
Thank you. Councillor Chris Cater.
Obliged.
Councillor Andrew Hinchcliffe.
Obliged.
Councillor Alan Hunter.
Abstain.
Councillor Peter Lewis.
For.
Councillor Tristan Lewis.
Obliged.
Councillor Yvonne Lloyd.
Obliged.
Councillor Dave Rees.
For.
Councillor Austin Roberts.
And bendant obliged.
Councillor Nigel Smith.
Very easy for our young families to move to the cities for employment, and I welcome this development and Claire staying in his local town, in his community. Obliged.
Great, thank you. Councillor Ken
got there in the end.
Stevens.
I won't make a speech, Chair, for.
Thank you. Councillor Trevor Stott.
Blind.
Okay, thank you, members. I'll just check. That's 11 in favour and 1 abstention.
Nigel was in favour, wasn't he? I lost track at the end.
Yes, I can confirm he was.
Thank you. Okay, members, as Lisa said, this will come back before us again next month. So we can look forward to that. Okay, last one you'll be pleased to know. Note on the agenda is 048069, which is a variation of condition number 1 of planning consent 5/2504 to allow for all year round static caravan occupancy for a temporary 2-year period at Owens Caravan Park, Towin Road, Towin, Conway at LL22 9ES, and that was on pages 172 to 178. I'll remember to hand over to the planning officer this time.
Okay, thank you, Chair. We've had a further response from NRW. They don't object to a relaxation of the condition for a 2-year period. We haven't had the response from emergency planning. I've left the recommendation in the addendum as it was in the report in case we received anything last minute. But as we haven't received anything from them now, I can provide a verbal update to the recommendation. And part A of the recommendation now reads minded to grant conditional planning permission. So it's not subject to further consultation responses. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Thomas. Members, I'll bring in Councillor Andrew Hinchcliffe.
Can I follow the recommendation of the officers, please, and approve?
Thank you, Councillor Andrew. Councillor Dave Rees.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to second Councillor Hinchcliffe's recommendation. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Councillor Dave. Okay, members, can't see any more hands up. So, Jane, if we can take this one to the vote.
Yes, thank you, members. Please state clearly if you're for, against or abstaining. Councillor Philip Capper.
For.
Councillor Chris Cater.
For.
Councillor Andrew Hinchcliffe.
For.
Councillor Alan Hunter.
Abstain.
Councillor Peter Lewis.
For.
Councillor Tristan Lewis.
Applied.
Councillor Yvonne Lloyd.
Applied.
Councillor Dave Rees.
For.
Councillor Austin Roberts.
Obliged.
Councillor Nigel Smith.
Obliged.
Councillor Ken Stevens.
For.
And Councillor Trevor Stott.
Obliged.
Okay, thank you, members. That's 11 in favour and 1 abstention.
Thank you, members. That one's carried, and thank you for a very interesting first planning committee as chair. It's almost a baptism of fire, but I think we've survived. So, thank you to the officers as well. There's a lot of hard work gone into this this month's meeting. So, thank you all, and I look forward to seeing you all and chairing you again at the next meeting.
Diolch, Alan, a llongyfarchiadau ti.
Well done, Alan.
Thank you, members.
Go and enjoy the rest of the
Well done.
sunshine.